Peace and love, y'all. It's your brother A.D.V.I.S.S, and we are here with another episode of What's the Word Wednesdays, Season 2, Episode 34. Now, as we usually do, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put down the topics for today in the comments, as well as we're going to put our logo in the background. And as I'm doing that, please let your brother know how you doing, how you feeling, and what's the word. And with all of that too, shouts out to all y'all that are watching, as well as will be watching this later on a replay, whether if it's Instagram or YouTube. If on YouTube, subscribe to your boy at A.D.V.I.S.S Speaks, and don't forget to like, comment, share, and hit the notification bell for more videos to come, because you never know when your boy gonna drop some more heat or just drop some more knowledge for your own noggin for college beyond this. I'm just playing, but other than that, subscribe there, and we're going to keep it moving as we usually do. So, for today's episode, the topics that we're going to be getting into, of course, first, we're going to go over the news section, which is going to be the current events. So, things that are currently happening that have at least caught my attention, so I'm going to speak on them. Second, we're going to talk about adulting. So, for those who are now, of course, the adult age, talking about the pros, the cons, the ups and downs of adulting. And lastly, we're going to talk about why do we make things so complicated. I really want to know that question. I really want to know the answer to that question. Why do we make things so complicated when there's another solution for things? But we're going to find out. We're going to find out. Besides that, give some people some time to get in here, playing some music in the background, as well as make sure y'all are tuned in and also taking the time to take care of yourself during these times, to love on yourself, your family, all those close around you. Make sure you're taking the time to do that, and don't do it before it's gone. That moment is gone, I should say. But yeah, let's give it some time. And we chilling, y'all. If I sound good, please, y'all let me know. If I need to turn things up, turn things down, please let me know. So get the sound right. Again, I got too much to be able to check and see if everything's all good and set up. So help a brother out. The HBO special. The void, the all of everything involved. And to y'all, this may not seem so shocking. You're pouring out willpower. Enhances your abilities. Can you even hear me? Can you even think? Check out the 360. Alright, y'all. We're gonna start winding down. And so we can get the show started, let me go ahead and let's jump into, of course, the show song. And then we can get the rest of this show on the road. So, let's get it. Gots to chill. Peace and love. What's the word? Tell me how you doing, how you feeling. Because people will always be asking. So we gotta let them know. What's the word, y'all? What's the word? What's the word, y'all? What's the word? What's the word, y'all? What's the word? Tell them like, what's the word? What's the word? What you heard? We gotta know, yeah, what's the word? Peace and love, y'all. It's your brother A.D.V.I.S.S, and I'm back with another episode of What's the Word Wednesday, Season 2, Episode 34. And yo, appreciate that, man. Appreciate that, man. Shouts out to A.D.V.I.S.S, man. That is a legend in my eyes, from an MC to just a dope producer. So shouts out to him for letting people jump on. But with that, y'all, we're here with another episode of What's the Word Wednesdays. And shouts out to all those that are in here now, as well as those who will be watching this later, either on Instagram or YouTube. And if you do, don't forget to like, comment, share, subscribe to your boy at A.D.V.I.S.S Speaks, and hit that notification bell for more. But with that, as y'all are coming in, let me know how y'all doing, how you're feeling, and what's the word. Because we got to know what's the word. But for today, y'all, we're going to be getting into 3 topics, like I usually said earlier. But the first thing we're going to be getting into, of course, on here is the news portion. So this is going to be the current events section. So I'm going to be going through news that I currently see. If y'all have any news or current events that you want to share in the comments, please throw them down in the comments. Other than that, y'all continue to go on with me with the show. If you don't want to see this portion of it, it takes about 30 minutes. So you can come back in the next 30 minutes, do what you got to end up doing. But on YouTube, there's going to be a stamp. You're all good to go. Second, we're going to get into the topic of adulting. What does that mean? Where are we going to take it? And how do we even contemplate it or put it together? And then lastly, we're going to talk about why do we make things so complicated? But besides that, y'all, let's go ahead and let's get into these current events. Now, for our current events for tonight, we got a few pertaining to some updates on, of course, the pandemic. Then we're going to talk about some concerning news in the U.S., outside the U.S., as well as we're going to talk about a few pop culture things that have happened very quick, recent. And then lastly, we're going to talk about, I got something on here for Malcolm X. Shout outs to Joe and your food. Peace and love. Good to see you in here. What's the word? Let me know how you doing, how you feeling. What's the word? But that's what we got for topics for tonight. So let's go ahead and let's start with the first article. So, first article comes from Deseret News. And the article title reads, "A new COVID-19 variant could be spreading throughout the world right now. Experts warn." I'm doing good. Love the vibe. Appreciate it. Thank you. Just letting you know, Joe, right now, brother, that I'm doing the news. So if you're not really into really knowing what's going on right now and don't want to hear anything about the news, just let me know, man. Go ahead, head out. I'll be back. Like, it'll be back 30 minutes to be done and over. Yeah, my word is ill. That's what I'm talking about, bro. Bring that word with it, man. Share that word, man. But yeah, so I'm feeling great though, my G. I'm into this. I don't watch the news anymore. All right, for sure, G. I'm gonna update you so you know. Again, first article coming from Deseret News, and the headline again reads, "A new COVID-19 variant could be spreading throughout the world right now. Experts warn." So, again, like I usually do, I don't read the whole article. We do 2 paragraphs and we're out. So let's go ahead, 2 paragraphs and we're out. So, article reads, "Europe should be mindful of a possible new COVID-19 variant spreading throughout the region, according to one of Europe's top economic experts." Now, before I continue, for those who aren't aware of the multiple other variants, there is a section on the CDC website that gives you a list of all of the variants that are known to us right now. Some being what they will call variants of concern, which the only one right now that's of concern is the Delta variant. Then there is variants of interest, which there is a long line of variants. I'm not going to talk about all of them here, but there's a whole lot of them on that CDC website. So if you want to know what all the other type of variant names are, which they are key named or code named by the Greek alphabet. But other than that, you can check that out on CDC website. And let's continue. Paolo, and I'm not going to even say the last name, the EU's Commissioner for Economics and Taxation, said the pandemic isn't over yet as cases continue to rise in Europe, according to CNBC. It's still a pandemic. We should be cautious. Oh, this is a short one. We're going to read this whole thing. It's still a pandemic. We should be cautious. Gentiloni said per CNBC. We should be very cautious on the possible new variants that we need to strengthen vaccination. Giannoli said the rise of the new COVID-19 cases could lead to new restrictions too. They will not have the same impact, the same economic impact than previous ones. Our economy is more antiquated to these kind of, or acquainted, I should say, not antiquated, acquainted to these kind of situations, he added. These comments come as a new variant has made headlines in Europe. French paper, The Telegram, but in French, of course, reported that a new variant called B.1.X or B.1.640 has some mutations to the spike that scientists haven't seen before. Cyril Cohen, a professor at Barlane, if I'm saying it right, University in Israel, I'm saying it completely wrong, told the Jerusalem Post that the B.1.640 variant likely came from Africa and is a sign of what can happen if more people don't get the COVID-19 vaccine. So I'm going to say that. I'm going to just leave it there at that. There's more said on it, but I'm not too sure what the other name for this new variant is. Again, check the CDC website for the updates because they have a whole list. Again, variants of concern, variants of interest, as well as just some that are there. What's going on, Kundin? Good to see you. Peace and love. And what's the word to you? Let me know. Right now, we got the word ill. And I know a lot of this, the COVID talk and all the pandemic and these variants is ill too, right? So, man, so I gotta end up saying, said COVID is long, 2022 inbound. Bruh, this gonna go on for a while. I'm gonna tell you now. It's gonna be multiple years on this one. So yeah. Giselle, peace and love. Good to see you up in here. What's the word? Alright, so that's the first article. So there's a possible new variant in Europe that is said to have originated or came from Africa, which there's already previous one that was said to be from Africa. I don't know specifically the name off the top of my head, but just updating you on this article again comes from the Deseret News, which the article title reads, a new COVID-19 variant could be spreading throughout the world right now, experts warn. So keep that in mind. If y'all have any news reports or anything current event wise you want to share, please throw them in the comments. Other than that, appreciate y'all sharing, as well as I appreciate y'all being in tune and just listening in. So appreciate y'all's time and support. Boom. Just following the Kyle Rittenhouse trial with the circus. Also the news about the infrastructure bill signing the law by Biden. I saw something about that. I did not click it for this one in particular. I didn't want to go too much into it. And I do have a quick update on that same trial, so we will do that in a few articles. But thank you. Thank you for sharing that. All right, next. This article comes from The Hill, and the headline reads, New Mexico governor says full vaccination must include boosters. So, y'all, I knew this would come, but again, this is coming from The Hill. Headline reads, New Mexico governor says full vaccination must include boosters. Some of us saw this coming, but let's go ahead. 2 paragraphs and we're out. Okay? Boom. New Mexico governor Michelle Lujan Grisham said on Wednesday she believes being fully vaccinated against COVID-19 means people must have a booster shot, the Associated Press reported. And again, for YouTube and Instagram, I am reporting the news. This is not my perspectives or anything else on here. I am reading verbatim that it is from the news topic. So if you're going to get mad at me, get mad at The Hill, MSN, NPR, etc. Don't get mad at me. All right, that's a disclaimer. Let's continue. Grisham made the comments at a virtual pandemic briefing, saying that the residents who received their last vaccination 6 months ago are causing an increase of number of COVID cases. According to the state data, at least 29% of the confirmed cases over the past 4 weeks are amongst vaccinated residents, even though unvaccinated people still make up the highest percentage of those who are hospitalized or die from the virus. We know the vaccinations are the most effective tool to both blunting the spread of the virus and to protecting ourselves and our families, Grisham said at the briefing. I'm going to skip and it will be done. About 47% of New Mexico adults are considered fully vaccinated against the virus. 47%. While more than 292,000 booster doses have been administered to residents since August 1st, according to state data. Now, I will continue on to these, but we're going to let this be. Again, this article comes from The Hill, and the headline is New Mexico governor says full vaccination must include boosters. So, leaving that for y'all to know, leaving for y'all to do what y'all do with it. If you have any thoughts on it, please put it in the comments. If not, I'm going to take a swig of some water, and we're going to continue with the next article, as well as I'm going to look at these comments. Refreshing. Make sure you hydrate, y'all. If y'all got some right now, hydrate. Drink some water right now. All right. Comment says Facebook has officially changed its name to Meta. Yeah, now I am seeing all its apps say from Meta. Yes. Yeah, they made the switch over, and now we are getting into the age of more online integration of reality. Even though we've done it, but it's already been happening, but now it's getting even closer and closer. There's folks in different companies and stuff starting to buy spaces within the metaverse. So it's going to be interesting, y'all. But thank you for sharing that. Now let us go ahead and continue. Now, this next article is something informative for nationwide for us to keep an eye on. Because we know we've been in a pandemic for so long, locked down for I don't know how many months, and then brought back out, shots, etc. We have this article from NPR, and the headline reads, drug overdose deaths in the U.S. have toppled 100,000 for the first time. Yo, what's going on, Brother Vlad? Peace and love to you, man. Thank you for coming through. Now let me know, what's the word, y'all? What's the word? Again, NPR. Headline reads, drug overdose deaths in the U.S. have toppled 100,000 for the first time. You know? Interesting. Now, before I continue, I see some more comments. Let me get them real quick. All right, yo, bro. I want to chat to you about being involved with a platform I've created, involved with the metaverse / NTF, etc. in the future. If you're interested, we can check in with that after, my G, and we'll see what's up. We'll chop it up. You seem you got Kundin in here, who is the Akashic consultant. Chabra has some interest, so maybe y'all also talk it out as well. But I got you, brother. All right. Headline, or I should say, article reads, 2 paragraphs, we out. More than 100,000 people have died over a 12-month period from fatal drug overdoses for the first time in U.S. history, according to new data from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, CDC. To all those families who have mourned a loved one, to all those people who are facing addiction or in recovery, you are in our hearts. President Biden said in a statement issued by the White House, together we will turn this tide on this epidemic. Boom. The tragic milestone represents a 28.5% increase over the same period of a year earlier, said Dr. Deb Horry with CDC Wednesday. Now let's see. I'll read this part right here, and then we will stop it right here. An overdose is a cry for help. Gupta said during the press conference, far too many people that cry goes unanswered. This requires a whole lot of government response and evidence-based strategies. Now, there's a lot. I mean, there's a little bit more on this article, but again, I just wanted to bring that to y'all's attention, and y'all could piece together why you think that drug overdose has toppled 100,000, this number within a year, and why it's so much on the rise. Y'all can put your word, all your thoughts and information together, and you can piece it with that. But with that, that's for this article. If y'all have any more, again, this comes from NPR. Headline: drug overdose deaths in the U.S. have toppled 100,000 for the first time. So if y'all ever want to go back and look at these articles, just find them. Right. On to the next one. And we got some more in here. Let's see. So yeah, the metaverse and NTFs are legit. Yes. Facebook changing its name to Meta, I think, was a desperate attempt at trying to capitalize on the next wave of technology and social interaction, utilizing the metaverse technology, but it's lit. Yeah, I mean, that was going to happen inevitably, and most of the people that are in that market are at least within that sphere of knowing are going to be the first innovators to jump on and do things. So that's why you always gotta watch. Remember, people say follow the money, but also, watch those who are on the Forbes list and see what they doing. You just look and you notice different things. That's why with people doing stock, doing all this, in the stock market, is that you watch not only the news, but you watch a lot of figureheads, Elon Musk, a lot of these folks that speak on stuff, Warren Buffett, all these folks that speak on things, and you start to notice, okay, when they say something, some stock go up or go down. So you always got to be cognizant of what's going on. Current events, got to stay up to date. But yeah, just my opinion, but I've been researching the space a lot. That's what's up, G. That's what's up. Now, next article for your heads comes from U.S. News, and the headline reads: Chinese military at or near ability to invade Taiwan. U.S. agency concludes. Now, let's go on with this. Let's see, 2 paragraphs and we're out. And always check the articles and read it too for yourselves. Right, let's go. The Chinese military has now or will soon have the ability to invade Taiwan. A U.S., that's the reason why this is important. A U.S. government agency has concluded, documenting also failed attempts by China and the U.S. to better understand one's intentions. The People's Liberation Army, China's name for its military, is capable of landing at least 25,000 troops on the island nation to establish an initial beachhead, according to the newly released annual report from the U.S.-China Economic and Security Review Commission, a congressionally appointed agency designed to provide specific and nonpartisan national security and economic advice to Congress and the president. Now, I'm going to skip one part here and let's continue. So further complicating exiting U.S. efforts to deter China from seizing control of Taiwan by force are new tactics the PLA, which was the name of their army, has, and is it? Before I do it wrong, from their army has employed that offset some of the U.S. military's potency in the region. The report documents that the Chinese military has trained with barges, ferries, and other civilian vehicles to transport military troops across the Taiwan Straits, or elsewhere, in addition to more conventional military transports. So, yes. So right now, y'all, just updating there's been attempts. I'm not gonna read all of the article, but there's been attempts of China to invade Taiwan. U.S. has connections with Taiwan. All this is going on. Y'all, please, y'all stay up to date. Not only what's going on within the U.S., but outside of the world. There's other things too. But again, this article came from the U.S. News, or U.S. News and World Report, and the headline read, Chinese military at or near ability to invade Taiwan, U.S. agency concludes. Yeah, y'all. Yeah, it's interesting. But with that, let's go on to the next article. And yeah, y'all, I'm saying we watch What's the Word now. Appreciate it. Saying, yeah, leave Taiwan alone. Bro, you telling me, man, like on the real. Like on the real. Right. I got 4 more articles for y'all. Then after that, we're going to get on with the second part of the show. But let's continue with these articles. Now, this one is an update from last Wednesday's show. Well, I briefly talked about the Kyle Rittenhouse trial. So let's get a quick update on what is going on. So this article comes from NPR. And the headline reads, Day 2 of trial deliberation in the Rittenhouse trial ends again without a verdict. So, let's see what's going on. For those who don't know what's going on or who we're speaking about, I'm just going to read this. 2 paragraphs and we're out, okay? So, article reads, as the jury deliberated for a second day in the criminal trial of Kyle Rittenhouse, the 18-year-old who fatally shot 2 people during unrest last year in Kenosha, Wisconsin. Defense attorneys petitioned for a mistrial over a piece of video evidence that could be crucial to the prosecution's case. The mistrial request, which is the defense's second of the trial, came Wednesday afternoon when jurors asked to review a handful of videos from the case. That included a video introduced by prosecutioners halfway through the trial. Filmed by a drone from roughly a block away, the footage shows an overhead view of the first deadly incident on the night of August 25th, 2020, in which Rittenhouse fatally shot Joseph Rosenbaum, 36, after being chased through a used car lot. The video, which has shown to the jury during prosecutioners' closing statements on Monday, is key to their argument that Rittenhouse provoked the encounter with Rosenbaum by pointing his AR-15 style rifle near him, prompting him to chase Rittenhouse. Rittenhouse testified that he feared Rosenbaum would steal his gun and used it to shoot him. So, I'm not going to say anymore. There is a whole setup here, but I will say this, whether or not if it was in self-defense or if it was provoked, please, y'all, don't let this necessarily be too much of a distraction for y'all. There's a few cases that are going on right now, catching people's attentions and taking their attentions away from a lot of stuff that's going on in the background with government and etc. So all I say is you can watch this, but also make sure to stay aware of everything else that's going on. Don't get too sucked into this, okay? We know it's tragic. We know it's very disheartening and what has happened. But at the same time, make sure that you're also seeing beyond this as well. Right. That was my update on it. They still have no verdict. They're still trying to figure it out. So, on to the next one. Now, this one I don't know as much about. It just happened. So, I'm just going to say in more news, this article comes from NPR. And this is from Music News. And the headline reads, Rapper Young Dolph is shot and killed in Memphis. So we have another added to the long list of newer artists or newer rappers that are dying. are being taken down via violence. So we'll read a bit on it, as well as my condolences to his family and loved ones. I don't know all the full situation, but again, if y'all know who Young Dolph is, much love to the family and them, and this is unfortunate. Now let's read a bit, 2 paragraphs, and we're out. So, article reads, rapper A.D.V.I.S.S Robert Thornton Jr., better known as his stage name Young Dolph, was shot and killed in Memphis on Wednesday, today. According to police, Memphis Police Department Chief C.J. Davis said officers responded to a shooting at a cookie shop around 12:30 p.m., where the victim was pronounced dead at the scene. And shouts out to Cold Encounters, peace and love. Good to see you in here. Let me know how you doing, how you feeling, and what's the word. The preliminary information indicates that the victim, A.D.V.I.S.S Robert Thornton Jr. However, this information will be confirmed once the identification process has been completed, Davis said in a statement. Davis added, this shooting is another example of the senseless gun violence we are experiencing locally and nationwide. Our hearts go out to the Thornton family and all who are affected by this horrific act of violence. So I'll just say this last part and we'll keep it at there. If y'all don't know who Young Dolph is, Young Dolph is a 36-year-old rapper who is from Memphis, released a successful independently produced debut album, King of Memphis, in 2016. Then he made 3 other albums that would reach top 10 in the Billboard 200, including his latest work, Rich Slave, which was released in 2020. The album became his highest charting project, peaking at a number 4 on the Billboard 200. So, that's all I know right now. There's a lot going on with this. They're still saying there's an ongoing investigation. I don't know what else, and when you say that's there. The only thing that I see at the end of this article that's tripping me out says that Young Dolph escaped from the scene, running to a nearby store. He was later taken to the hospital and underwent surgery. That's all I know for right now. But yeah, again, condolences to his family and all his loved ones that are there. And again, this lifestyle that you are living in, the persona that you put about, you have to be very careful. You have to be very careful. But other than that, y'all, let's move on to I'll do this. There's another article I wanted to speak on. I will just name it, and then we're going to move on. You can look it up later if you want. But this article comes from CNN, and the headline reads, he was wrongly convicted of murder as a teen. After fighting for 26 years, his name has finally been cleared. And if you want to know the person's name, it is Dante Sharp, a Charlotte, North Carolina resident. I'm not going to go further into it, but again, this article, if you want to read and know a little bit more, is CNN, and the headline reads, he was wrongly convicted of murder as a teen. After fighting for 26 years, his name has finally been cleared. So that's for y'all to know. But shout outs to the brother Fred Wizard in the building. How you doing, G? Let me know. How you doing? How you feeling? What's the word? Good to see all of y'all up in here, man. All right, last article I got for y'all. I just wanted to do an update. It's kind of a date for those who may have known, but other than that, let's continue. Last article I got for y'all, coming from NPR. Headline reads, 2 men convicted of killing civil rights leader Malcolm X are set to be exonerated. If y'all don't know what exonerated means, that means wiped away from the crime of what they did. So let's read 2 paragraphs and then we'll be out. And I'll say why I wanted to go into this. Now, article reads, 2 of the 3 men convicted of killing the civil rights activist Malcolm X are expected to be exonerated as Manhattan's top prosecutor moves to clear their names. District Attorney Cy Vance and lawyers representing the two men announced that they will move to vacate the wrongful convictions of Muhammad Aziz and Khalid Islam on Thursday, a move that debunks the official account about the assassination of the fiery orator who was murdered on stage in 1965 in a hail of bullets in front of hundreds of people, including his daughter and pregnant wife. Now, I'm going to read this last part and then we're done with this. So, Aziz and Islam, members of the Nation of Islam, were sentenced to life in prison a year later, along Muhammad Abdul Alhim, then known as Tamal. These names, I'm terrible. Javier and Thomas Hagen. When Halim confessed to the murder during the trial, he testified that neither Aziz nor Islam was involved, but he declined to name the men who had joined him in the attack. Meanwhile, Islam, known as Thomas 15X Johnson, and Aziz, I'm not laughing at his name, then known as Norman 3X Butler, always maintained their innocence. So, to sum this all up together, there's been FBI documents that's been involved to show the evidence of them being exonerated. So we'll see what goes on. But the reason why I want to bring it back up is because that is such a notable thing of people have always been trying to find out and figure out who really assassinated Malcolm X. And just figuring out during that time, a lot was going on, not only with Malcolm X, but also what happened previously to, or years later would be Dr. King, etc., of who was doing these inside jobs, etc. And in his particular case, being such a huge figure within not only civil rights, but also, honestly, just human rights in particular. So I just wanted to bring that to know that the two that are convicted are being exonerated. And that was back in 1965 or maybe 66. Yo, all the years up until now, yo, I don't even know how old they are. It's crazy, you know? But with that, y'all, that was all I had for the news. If y'all have anything for news, please throw it in there. If not, y'all, we are going to move to the next topic for tonight, which a lot of us can relate to, as well as always put into question. So the next topic that I got for y'all that we're going to be talking about is adulting. Now, I want to give my disclaimer. For those who would like to come in and share about the topic and get to talk and discuss, just know that this does go up on YouTube. If you're not comfortable with that, then it's fine for you to stay within the topics. But if you are comfortable, please, I am grateful and I'm glad that you will come in and just share your thoughts on the topics at hand and continue throughout the show with me, because that's how we not only challenge, but also we build and grow from having honest reasoning and conversations. Now, adulting. Now you're figuring out, okay, A.D.V.I.S.S, what are you talking about? What do you mean adulting? Like, what are we going to talk about specifically when it comes to adulting? Are we going to talk about how hard it is? We're going to talk about, you know, whether or not you want to be an adult. What are we talking about? So, before we do that, I at least want to give us a quick definition, or I should really say a slang definition of adulting. And then from there, I'll give my spiel. If y'all have anything, please throw it in the comments. I should say this right now. When you hear the word adulting, what word, or phrases come to mind? Put them in the comments. And yes, I'm talking to y'all that's here as well as those who are going to be watching this replay. You too, put them down in the comments. Let the algorithm run. All right. So while y'all are doing that, I'm going to read the definition that they have here. And this is coming from dictionary.com. Not our Webster's today, but dictionary.com. But this is what we got for adulting. Adulting is an informal term to describe behavior that is seen as responsible and grown up. This behavior often involves meeting the mundane demands of independent and professional living, such as paying bills and running errands. Now, I'm going to give a little bit so y'all know the concept of where adulting come from, at least from dictionary.com. Where does it come from? Adulting is based on a verbal extension of the word adult, which is to adult or behave in a manner of adult, while there are other unrelated instances for the form word of adulting. Contemporary use began on social media around 2008-2009. The American Dialect Society nominated adult as a most creative word of 2015, and the term saw a major surge in 2016. Its Twitter use increased by 700%. The concept behind adulting may stem from the fact that members of the rising millennial generation, millennials, y'all, are going through major life stages such as getting married, having children, buying a home, getting those upgrades or those bonuses, as well as, I keep on forgetting, promotions and jobs at a much later age than previous generations. This has caused the term to be somewhat ridiculed in popular media. It doesn't help that there are even cases that teach elementary adult skills ranging from personal finance to how to properly fold laundry, skills once traditionally taught in home economics. Well, again, a lot of people don't even have a home economics as classes either, but there's a quick little history. Shout outs to dictionary.com. Again, that's a bit of it. You can always look into it, but let me see what y'all got. Boom. Responsibility. Yes. Adult thing, which another word for that, mundane. Y'all hitting it on the head. Accepting and bearing the weight of life as a fully functional part of society. Yeah. All of those things. Yeah, I have to go to bed. It's over here, but stay dope. Appreciate it. Thank you for coming through. Much love. Thank you. Get some rest, and appreciate you coming through for What's the Word Wednesdays. Always love. So keep it pushing, my man. All right. So y'all, again, I agree with a lot of the statements and things that y'all put already. And even just from this little piece that I read right here, talking about adulting, it really starts to really put into my head about those life skills that a lot of us, especially that it says millennial age of the generations, didn't get a lot of mentoring or time to really build. So it's very surprising to find millennials. So that's about folks that are around the age of 24 or maybe 25 up to about 35 right now. I don't remember specifically what are the years for what millennials land under the years, but it's very interesting to find that folks under that have been having more harder times getting accustomed not only to the changing within the work environment, social media, and just life in general, but the previous skills that we were taught. Remember, traditional, there's a whole such thing of, at least sayings of, there's a traditional man and woman, and then there's also the modern man and woman. And it seems as millennials are the modern version of the traditional, there are traditional skills and values that have not been passed on or have been practiced that were very, what we would call common sense. That's not, again, being used or shown now. So it's very interesting for this concept of adulting to come up and have the boring, mundane, and responsibility things behind it. Yo, what's going on?
Hey, what's up?
What's the word?
What's the word? So, I'm almost done reading this book, Lead from the Outside,
Mm.
by Stacey Abrams.
Oh,
Yeah.
nice.
So a lot of it is kind of about adulting. So
Mm. Please
yeah,
do share.
yeah. She's the she became famous for the, Georgia governor race, if you remember that one, where uh, the
Some
person that was
go.
in like I think 2018,
Yeah.
and she lost because the person, her opponent, the person running for governor, was also the one in charge of the election, right? So there was shenanigans there, right there.
Oh wow, conflict of interest.
Yeah, I can't think of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, so yeah, I can't total conflict of interest. So that's why after that, she formed an organization to for fair voting, the fair voting
Peace,
in
Vlad.
Georgia.
Much love, man. Thank you for coming through. I appreciate y'all who
Yeah,
are on a different coast coming through, and I know it's a super. It'll be late over where y'all at, so
yeah.
appreciate y'all for coming through,
Hmm.
even for a little bit. Y'all have a good rest and catch you next time.
Hmm.
Yeah, continue. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So she ended up creating the organization in Georgia for fair voting.
Mm,
I forgot the name, but that is she's basically the main one of the main people responsible for the fact that after Biden won, the the Democrats won back the House and the Senate
mm,
because Georgia was the critical race because there was a runoff election
yes.
after November, and Georgia is the one that tipped the race towards. It was a very like fine balance. They tipped it towards the Democrats.
Mm. Well, thank you for sharing that,
Yes,
giving some people a little background. And it's
yeah.
always
So that's
something.
her background. Yeah. So that's why in her book, like it's like a part memoir, part advice, or you might call it self-help.
Mm,
That category. But because she is a black woman of color, I find you know this is like the most nuanced self-help book ever written that I've ever read,
hmm.
where there is a lot more empathy and compassion and a sense of justice for uh, for what's possible, for what you can achieve, uh, in the face of systemic oppression like
Yeah.
racism and sexism, especially, and all of the nuances of navigating that and still be able to succeed in life. So that's why I like the book. That there were all these things that I didn't see before that I now see.
Yeah.
Uh, so it's a lot more realistic book, but still gives you uh, all of the know-how. Like
Yes.
like one example she gives is like the myth of the one the one long-term mentor.
Hmm.
When in reality there is usually more than one mentor, especially for people like us,
Yeah.
where and she actually talks about the four types of mentors. There is like yeah, there's a whole chapter on mentorship,
Should get it out.
and so she talks about the situational mentor. You know each other, but the core connection is the person's subject matter expertise
Hmm.
just for that situation. Then there's peer mentorship, similar to you in age or position, can
Mhm.
offer insights and help game out situations. Uh, and that might also be temporary. So both the situational is totally temporary.
Yeah.
Peer could be temporary or long term. Then there's the advisor. You have a more complex relationship, offers
Mhm.
more consistent advice, and is engaged in your long term plan. So that's the
Mhm.
long term one. And then there's the sponsor. So
Hmm.
the sponsor doesn't really give you advice. You have a cordial relationship, but not a deep one, speaks up for you and can open doors. So the sponsor is more like an advocate, your
Okay. Supporter.
yeah, yeah, supporter.
I'm with that. Thank you for sharing that. Always Kunin. I know I
Yeah.
always keep on saying at the same time, but yeah,
Hmm.
because now it starts me off with a question when it comes to adulting on that part is let's run it down for folks. Like all of y'all out there too. Um, give me some traits, values, or characteristics of what it is to be an adult.
Hmm.
So that's what we want to start off with is we want to name some characteristics, some traits. Let's say traits, some traits and values of being an adult.
Hmm.
Um, in my particular case, the main one that y'all end up saying, "What's up, Electric?" Um, of course, yeah, definitely on responsibility. Being
Hmm.
responsible is one of them
Responsibility,
for being that.
accountability,
I feel I mean,
reliability,
accountability is the way how things are nowadays. But yes, that's one there. Continue.
reliability.
Hmm. Um, in this particular case, man, you got to be hardworking, especially
Hmm.
for the things that you want to keep and you want to have. You definitely got to be hardworking as an adult. Um, other values that you have for being an adult, we was already speaking about. Also, you got family. I mean, you have those values beforehand, but as you become more of an adult, it even shines further in the importance of family. Um,
Hmm.
Another one I'm thinking off the top of my head when it means to end up being an adult. I'm an adult. Honestly, it's commitment.
Hmm.
Because there's gonna be times, and we talked about it last Wednesday, that you may not even want to get up out the bed, but you know that you got a commitment not only to yourself, but maybe your partner, your loved ones, family, whatever it is, to go out there, be hardworking, to be able to provide, pay for the bills, bring home the money and everything else. We got one in here from Electric said growth.
Growth. Yeah.
Yes, growth spans through all stages of of being, of course, a child, teen, adult, all the way into your later years. But I still agree because growth is very important. And shouts out to the brother Sabi Smooth in the building. What's the word, my brother? The booth is on fire. Um, but what's some more? What are some more, y'all, of some characteristics, some values and traits of being an
Mm.
adult? What are some more?
Along with commitment would be focus
Mm, mm.
and discipline.
Discipline. I agree.
Hmm.
Um, I'm gonna throw one as a curveball that honestly I think is a trait of an as an adult. Humor. I
Hmm.
think humor can also be a trait because I think it's very important to, at least for me, that's a value. I should say it's very important to have as an adult because we go through a lot of stressful things in life,
Hmm.
and sometimes y'all we gotta sit back and laugh at it. Can't always be
I
so
agree.
serious, but we definitely have to give ourselves some time, man. Just laugh at some stuff. We get entertained at things, so why not? Bring some humor into this stuff. As
Yeah.
well as maturity is another one. That is a trait of being an adult. You're mature, so you're no childlike or this childish behavior. You're supposed to be, more mature. Not saying that you can have your moments, of course, but still, it's
Yeah. It's
another one.
interesting with humor though, like humor is relative and it can maturity humor can be contradictions depending on context and depending on how you wield it, because
Yes,
some people use humor as a childish deflection
yeah,
to not take responsibility. So, but humor as a coping mechanism or as a cushion to deal with stress, it's all right.
yeah. I also see it as
Yeah.
a connecting factor too, because some people connect
Hmm.
different ways through, having all different types of hobbies. I mean, you have,
Hmm.
comedians, you have folks that you may not know like that as an acquaintance, but y'all know that y'all share jokes with each other, and that's how y'all communicate and y'all connect as,
Hmm.
individuals. So seeing human interactions, but using humor for those interactions works for y'all in particular. Now we see got some more comments. We got adulting comes with a lot of responsibility for yourself, your well-being, and your relationships with others. Agreed, my brother. Agreed. being open to others' ideas and lives. Yes, thank you for hitting on that, electric. Thank you. Openness is another trait for me of being an adult. It may not show out, but again, this is a value for me. This is so a lot of these characteristics, these traits and values that we're putting out. Some of them are for sure objective, but that one for me, it can be subjective again. But we're just throwing them all out here for these are those possible traits and characteristics to have. So take them at will, because
Yeah.
then we're going to continue and talk more about, okay, why are we even talking about these values and where does
Hmm.
that come in with being an adult? So yeah. What's going on,
I'll
notes? What's
call you when
going
I get
on?
back
Sincerely
in. Yeah.
notes the truth. When I get all
I
right.
think even hard work is relative because it's relative to the the systemic technology that we have, right?
Yeah,
Because I think our ancestors with their technology that they had to work much harder than us in terms of just physical labor. Like, they didn't have computers, they didn't even have cars, for example, they were still like, driving horses.
yeah.
So we probably had a lot more bricklayers, jobs like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
During the Industrial Revolution, there's a lot more sweat equity, a lot more sweat, like actual, laying bricks
Mm,
in the hot sun, that kind of jobs.
yeah,
Today we have less of those, right? And we have more jobs that are like programmers and things like that. I mean, there's
yes.
still people who work in warehouses and have to lift objects and things like that, but like
Manual labor
that manual
jobs.
labor, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe it's just me and my association where when I think about hard work, I think of manual labor. Like I don't see
I get
mental
you.
labor in the same way.
Yes.
Yeah,
Honestly, I agree with you on that point, but I know we have to again a lot of words, a lot of definitions and values are changing with the time.
yeah.
So we have to, accommodate and learn, okay, what used to be hard work back then, now this is what it's visualized and seen as now. Because honestly, if you
Hmm.
see what programmers do, or you see what folks that are behind a computer having to do just so you can keep up your Instagram, the networks, the web, all these other different things for you, man, you would definitely be grateful because you ain't got to click buttons and read code 011s and
Hmm.
do a lot of coding and putting these things in. So for you to be like, man, that's hard work. On top of that, that's why we have also, at least in English, that we have a saying that it's not rocket science, because
Hmm.
when you want to say something that is difficult but really isn't, they'll say, well, it's not rocket science, because we know how difficult, quote unquote, rocket science can end up being. So in that particular case, that will also be seen as something of doing hard work, because again, you're doing a lot of testing, you're doing a lot of trial and error, as well as
Right.
there's a lot of coding and things of that. So it may not, again, like you
Oh
said,
yeah.
it may not necessarily have to be the manual labor, but also just the mental. And then in some cases, honestly, you know, I still see a bit of it having an element of manual labor, but that's not the entirety of the
Yeah.
day.
That's why I did it. I mean, the reason why I brought it up is because some people who might be watching it might have similar thoughts,
Yeah,
but to counter that, this is the reason why I came up with my model of the 7 types of unrecognized labor that needs to be recognized. And you can see it with almost my every post. Every time I do a multi-slide post,
yeah,
I put that slide in just to remind people that even with that kind of post, it might seem like, oh, it's just graphics, but there's a lot of uh, these types of unrecognized labor, like we already mentioned, mental labor, right?
yeah.
And there's also intellectual labor,
Mm-hmm.
there is emotional labor, there is there's environmental labor in terms of
Okay.
uh, like we have to keep our rooms neat and tidy,
Yeah,
right? Uh, or to keep it organized to our optimum. And for some people, they might even need their room to be a little bit messy, for example, but they still have to think about it, so that's environmental labor. there is like relational labor, which is like we have to keep up with relationships, like even keeping up a relationship with a mentor, right? Like we
Mm-hmm.
just mentioned earlier.
Yes.
And because some of these ideas that we come up with come from friendships and relationships,
Yes. That is
and
very
so
true.
that requires labor to keep it up because there are days when you might want to just sleep all day and not go out with a friend, and you might want to go out with a friend to keep the relationship, right?
It's hard
So
work because we
it's
talking
hard
about
work.
not
Yeah,
manual labor, but
yeah,
relationships are hard work, y'all.
yeah, exactly. And then there's spiritual labor, which is like
I'm putting it right down there.
whatever
Yup.
you consider spiritual, whether because you do need that connection, right, with something bigger than you
Yeah.
to keep up your creativity, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where there is, whether that may be meditation, listening to music. For me, it's like sky gazing, for example. That uh, connecting to your chakras or your energy centers and all of
Yeah.
these things. In fact, lately I am adding even an eighth type of labor because whenever I organize, interviews or interview shows that I do,
Yeah.
uh, I notice I'm not able to do it very long term. Like I kind of like either burn out or get bored, and that's because I realize that's also labor. It's a specific kind of labor. It's organizational or logistical labor
Yeah.
to like not only reach out to people but actually like schedule them at specific times and dates and to be able to talk to them like you're doing with your interview show, right, that you started.
I was just about to say
That's
the same
logistical
thing.
labor right there. That's a whole type of labor that's not often recognized.
Yes. And again, for a selfish plug, um, on days I have another series called More Interviews, which stands for Memoirs of Our Real Experiences. And for some of y'all that's up in here, y'all, if y'all are interested, I would love to interview y'all so people can get some of your memoirs of your own experiences, whether if you're
Yeah,
an
reach out to
artist,
me.
whether you're a music. We already, Kunden, you already know is already gonna happen. Just so
Yeah.
musician, artist, poets, etc. Everybody that's coming on, anybody can.
Mhm.
Just want to share something that you'll have content for yourself as well as you'll have thought out questions from yours truly doing that too for you. So to get
Mhm.
into it, so yes. Let me get back on these comments. Shout outs to all y'all in there. Um, Look at adult animals. They protect and try to survive this crazy world. Tech has opened our awareness, but the elements of life have a way of flowing. They do,
Mhm.
because especially if we keep it in the natural sense of some things, it'll continue to flow. Because sometimes we have the pros and cons to technology, for sure.
Mhm.
Whether it is to help enhance life, but at the same time, it's also being detrimental to certain aspects of life. We also got
Mhm.
spiritual. I see you, Kunin just touched on spiritual. You had it right there, and then health.
Mhm.
Yes, health is a very important piece, and I think that's what it is
Oh
because we
yeah,
forgot the
that's the
L.
mitochondrial labor. I forgot to include that.
The
So
mitochondria labor? Oh, you
that's
hitting them
part
with
of
the
health.
SAT
Yeah,
word. I was playing.
yeah, health is part of the mitochondrial labor where I talked about how uh, in order to keep your brain functioning, you need to eat, for example, certain types of foods to keep up the energy in the mitochondria, the ATP.
Yeah,
But the mitochondria is a cell that produces energy for your body and especially
it's the
for your
powerhouse of the
brain.
cell.
Yeah. And you need to eat specific types of brain food like, coconut oil, avocados. And some of these foods are expensive to really buy. Like you buy
Yes.
them with actual money and they're very expensive. So just to keep your brain healthy in order to produce the kind of quality work that you and I do, that's a whole other not only labor but actual expense that you can actually track it with money as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Boom. There it is with that, y'all. So now, okay, we gotten to talk a little bit, give some characteristics, some views, as well
Oh,
as.
one more thing about hard work. For a
All
while,
right.
there was a whole debate about hard work versus, smart work, right? And
Yeah.
then in 2016, a guy named Cal Newport wrote a book called Deep Work. which gives a whole other spin on the whole debate, where he talks about how you need deep work is work that requires increased levels of intense focus and brain energy and concentration in a specific amount of time that requires a lot more a lot more attention and concentration in a short amount of time. And that's why
Mm.
he calls it deep work, where you're going very deep. And he says that the internet, yeah, right, is both a blessing and a curse in the sense that our work, there is like, because there are so many people on the internet now, we
Yeah.
have more reach, right?
Mm.
But conversely, because there are more and more people on the internet, uh, there's a lot more mediocre work. So
Mm.
deep work is both increasingly rare and increasingly valuable for that reason. So if you can give yourself the time to do that deep work, you're gonna be like ahead of the pack. You know,
Hmm.
that's what he's saying. And deep work requires a lot of solitude. Like he gives examples like Carl Jung literally built himself a tower to write his books because he wanted to beat Freud because he was in competition with him to create his big, big, very thick books that he wrote,
Yes.
and to become, as famous as Freud at the time, right? And
Yes.
then uh, he gives other examples, like a lot of his examples are kind of bad examples in terms of like their impact, but they did produce work that impacted a lot of people, like J.K. Rowling when she wrote her later works,
Yeah.
she would lock herself in a hotel room for months at a time to finish those books.
Oh wow.
But there's a lot of other authors. Yeah, and speaking of programmers, he even talks about a programmer who literally, learns a very specific kind of programming in a very short amount of time
Yeah.
in order to become ahead. Because programming is a very competitive field, and this person had to do that in order to like get ahead in a very short amount of time.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Again, y'all, a
And that's
flip on all of that.
discipline, that's commitment, that's all of the things we talked about. Yeah.
So, with all of that being said, okay, so we gave some characteristics, some values. If y'all have some more, throw them in the comments. Okay, but why did you want us to even talk about that? Well, reason why I wanted us to talk about that is because we at least wanted to get some idea, okay, of what you think or what you bring when it comes to your understanding of what adulting is. Now,
Mm,
when it comes to talking about adulting and living within this life and this system, what what honestly is the main purpose with adulting? And yes, you're gonna be like, okay, that's a simple question to answer, but I just want to ask, okay, we got all these values and stuff of what adulting is, and like, what is the main purpose of adulting? Of being an adult? What is that? Give us some of
mhm,
the purposes of why would you be an adult or want to be an adult, have responsibility, do this thing that we call adulting. Why?
mhm. Well, before we even get there, maybe it's important to point out that it is at least partially a mostly Western centric or North American centric point of view because here in the West, we're expected to just, leave home when we're 21 or 18, actually 18, go to
Yes.
college, graduated by 21 or 22, and technically you're an adult when you're 21, which is the approximate time that you graduate from college. And college, uh, and even school is, designed supposedly to, to get you a job, right?
Yes.
That you
Mm-hmm.
end up getting in lots of debt, which is a whole other topic, instead of being prepared for a job. But like, but there's a very much an emphasis on like you have to live on your own, right? Because
Yes.
in this society, values like independence and freedom is is like overly emphasized to the point of being like overly independent rather than and ignoring our interdependence.
Yeah.
In fact, I even saw a whole discussion in one of the Facebook groups I'm part of where we talked about how it's almost like a conspiracy by the banking industry because they want more people dependent on the banks, more
Hmm.
people like filing for credit cards,
Yes.
more people in the system, which is why they created the whole model of the nuclear family and all of that. They destroyed the more communal context that we in Eastern cultures had. You
Yeah.
know, like I grew up in a joint family.
Hmm.
Like when my cousin's parents divorced in a different city, my mother and my father uh,
Yeah.
adopted those three people, three of my cousins, their children of my uncle, and then like two of my uncles also came to live with us, and then there was an aunt who would live with us for months at a time whenever she would come over for her job because her job required travel and long-term stay in our city. And
Mm.
so yeah, like, and then there would be long-term guests as well that would come, other guests from because we also had people living in the United States here. They would come sometimes and stay for weeks at a time. Uh, so basically, it was a joint family, but it's a generational thing because my dad in India also grew up
Yes.
in a joint family. Actually, so that my mom, before she married my dad, she was born into a family of 8 children. So she had like 7 brothers and sisters, who with her is 8.
Wow.
And and that was from her dad's second marriage.
Hmm.
So there was children from the first marriage. I think they lived in a different house though, but that itself was like a big house right there. So we had a lot of like what I'm saying is we had a lot more of a support network
Yes.
and more of a sense of what's the word I'm looking for, leniency regarding how quickly you can be a success, right?
Gotcha.
So like here, there's an expectation that, like for example, if you haven't written your great novel by the time you're 23,
Yeah.
there's even a meme about that. Then then you suck. Uh, and then all these lists that are 30 under 30 or 40 under 40. Um, there was a meme about that too, where there was like, why do we expect people to to be this big success so quickly,
Yeah.
right? Because at 30, in reality, you're still kind of a baby, like because
I'm still
you're
trying to figure things
still,
out.
yeah, you're still trying to figure things out. You've been on this earth for only 30 years. Like you've known, it's still a new experience to
Yes.
just even to be on earth, to be in this physical body. You still only have 30 years experience of what it's like to even be in a human body, to even be uh, on earth.
What do you mean a human body and on Earth? And isn't that where it's supposed to be? No, I'm not gonna do that. But those are your detractors and
Right,
the
yeah.
haters speaking to you. What you talking about?
But yeah, within a Western context, yeah, I think it's just for the individual on the individual level, it's just there is a whole mythos around, oh, you got to be independent, you got to be free. But nobody questions who put that program in. And my take
Hmm.
is, it's the big banks. It's a big factor.
Got you.
Yeah.
And electric. I'm not too sure where you going with what you saying down there. Besides that, you got the EW Helzberg. If that's what you're talking about with all of these notes here, bro, I appreciate it. But I'm not gonna lie. I will have to read that for another context because right now it's sounding like some biblical verses right now. But um, I mean, to the point. I mean, that's why. I mean, there's various different types of family structures, but the nuclear family is very important because if you think about nuclear, I'm a words guy. What does nuclear sound like? Nucleus. It sounds like that's literally the center, at least. If you got your center, You can have conjoined families. You have all these different family structures around it, but you always got to have a foundation of something. So I know when we speak on, at least when it comes to the family aspect of adults, and it's very important that you have those ties and you work on those relationships because I mean, as an adult, I mean, the older and older you get, and shouts out to you again, speaking earlier about the book and all the different types of folks and people that come through and support you, whether if it's a supporter, whether if it's a peer, whether if you have a coach, whether you have anybody that's there on that line with you. Those are going to be folks within your life that's going to help you figure these things out when it comes to being an adult. I mean, honestly, hopefully you have people in your circle to be able to do that. Whether for some people, may have been in foster care, may have not have a family, may only know your
Mm-hmm.
grandfather, grandmother, aunties, uncles, whoever, or just somebody who ended up just bringing you in. Again, it's a foster child, or whoever it is. But learning the initial, life skills that's needed for you to be an
Mm-hmm.
adult. Kind of what earlier the dictionary.com was given about why the word adulting even came to be is
Mm-hmm.
because there's some miscommunication as well as a telephone playing. I like this as a metaphor of what was traditional values and skills, and now how it
Mm-hmm.
translated to modern day. It has not caught way. So you'll be surprised that you got 20, 30 plus year old folks that don't know how to wash clothes. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, even going to a wash house to go wash clothes. Okay, where do I put it in the detergent? Do I need to soften it? Do I need to do this, etc.? As well as you
That's
have
crazy.
folks who don't know how to clean up their room. Shout out to Jordan Peterson for you to be able to accomplish or honestly get over any problem or situation. First, you got to be able to start with you in your room. And there's folks that have not learned how to do that when you would think those are some common known skills and common sense to do that, but unfortunately, due to what we've been taught and what we learned, a lot of those values weren't necessarily passed on, as well as for if you wanted to learn some of those life skills and values, for those who are within the public school or they're in places where funding within their district or within their space was limited, there's a lot of different classes that were taken away. Like there used to be a home economics class for those learning how to cook
Mm-hmm.
and do a lot of things within the kitchen and just around their house. As well as you have wood shop for folks learning how to really work with their hands and know how to build and craft things. As well as I had a life skills course back in high school, but it was only just talking about experiences of what people went through and what you could come up with. And they don't and I mean, it was great to have, but not to be able to practice and to get, hands on practice with these skills is very hard. Because then, honestly, for me, I'm saying for myself as an example, honestly, I'm still not the best when it comes to cooking, but at least I could kind of cook. And for me personally, I did a lot of observational learning from my mom, my grandmother, and stuff. But every time I wanted to learn how to cook, it was like, no, 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 get out the kitchen. Just wait until the food is done. You ain't got to do it. I'm just like, but later on, I'm going to need to learn how to cook for myself. So can I practice? It's like, nah, nope. Get about the kitchen. Shouts out to them. But at the same time, it's
My
like,
mom was the
it's
opposite.
cute
She like
things.
it's so funny because uh she had four sons, right? I don't identify as a man anymore, but whatever at the time I did. So she had these four male children, and her whole thing was, I don't ever want any of my children to become dependent on their wives to cook. I'm gonna make
Mm,
sure every one of them learns to cook. So
yes.
she taught us how to cook from like a pretty young age. Even me, even though she was a lot more lenient on me, I did eventually learn how to cook as well.
Yeah.
Like
I
working
will.
on me
Yes.
because I was the youngest, but she was still like, "Oh, you have to learn these skills because when you get married, I don't want you to be dependent on anybody else for these basic things."
Yes, I will say this. I'm not gonna throw both of them under the rug like that.
Hmm.
Like they both showed me certain things, but when I
Hmm.
really was engaged and wanted to really learn how to cook, that was
Hmm.
that energy wasn't took into consideration. Now, when I didn't and I wanted to do other things and learn other skills, that's when they're like, "Oh, come on, come join the kitchen with me." And it's like, nah, now I don't want to. I want to go learn this now because I'm over here. I asked earlier and it was a no. I mean, I learned how to at least do breakfast, at least for my mom. learn how to do that, but like everything else is like
Mm,
I'm a very I can follow instructions, so I'm a very instructional dude. I don't have like that extra little added of pizzazz or spice or anything. And then now I kind of freehand a
mm,
lot of stuff now for me. So honestly, if I had to cook for people and have people come over and eat, I'm probably gonna go order something for all of us because I know I cook for myself and it's edible. But for me trying to cook for other people, I'm not that confident in wanting to do that because there's still certain things I
mm,
would need to learn. But I
mm,
mean, on the sides of all of that cooking with adulting, there's a lot of different skills that at least now is at least in the article it said about millennials did not pick up. So a part to the
mm.
question of
So who took away the funding for the home economics? That's interesting.
I want, like I said, it varies from district to district. It's
Mm,
district as well as school to school. Again, for me, it's because of again for certain district. I mean, all the districts and schools they get parts of their funding from the city and places that they're in. So if you
mm,
got less funding, that's just like um again, at any type of job or place, if you got less funding for something, there's places that you got to take some shortcuts or at least some pay cuts in places. And that was fuel some of the things. It's like you know what, we don't have enough space for home economics or any of these places. So let's cut it out. And now we can put in another classroom for a third section of a history class versus, or maybe cut out this PE class and put it over here in this area so we can make room for another math teacher and things of sorts of that nature. So stressing, yes, the importance of math, English, and a lot of those core courses in high school or within in school, but when you do that and you only gain it towards like heavy education, which again it is important to a certain extent, you lessen the impact of okay, if we're going to teach the youth, teach you know those coming up after us, the generation after us, it should be very important that we teach them about what it means to be an adult. Because honestly, throughout my school years, it literally, I was still feeling, again, we were in this small um, microcosm of a macrocosm, still trying to figure things out. And we wasn't adults yet. We still had we still had parents, and we had some type of guardians that was still paying for us to do things and being able to support us in any way, shape, or form. And we can talk about, oh shoot, when I become adult, when I get older, I'm gonna be able to do this, that, and the third, and also be able to get a job and do this and be able to supply for myself. But how are you gonna be able to do that if one, you don't know if you do have a house or if you live in an apartment, how to manage those finances? Two, learning, okay, where do I end up going if I want to go? If you don't go to the market with your parents or anybody's, then where am I going to get markets? Where do I learn how to, budget on sale, figure things out when it comes to, food? So then you have the
mm.
supplies. Like you start to figure out all these other little small skills that you could have practiced. Like that for me, that's like a simple, not simple, but again, it'll be something small to do, even an activity to have. It's like literally teaching youth how to budget. Like if you went to the market
Mhm.
and this is how all of this is made, and you got to make a week's worth of food, like how much would you need? How much money would you need to be able to feed a family of bum 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 and still have money at the end to pay for the house bill, whatever it is? So learn to teach kids how to really prioritize and to have priorities when it comes to stuff, and not just spend all on entertainment and just all the new gizmos and gadgets and
But that
things.
doesn't help the big banks if you know all that. So it goes back to that. They want you to overspend so that they profit from your lack of
That is
knowledge
why.
about finances.
That is
Right.
why in college, they're honestly the credit cards and the banks are some of the biggest, and I don't care, quite on this word, predators in college, especially. I don't know how
Yep.
many times I was up at school and literally all I want to do is go get me some lunch. I'll be stopped by some bank trying to get me to start up on a college account, put some money in, down payment on a credit card or sign off for something. I'm like, yo, I just want to go get something to eat. I'm not here for a card or anything. I already have a bank. But it's like, oh, you can have another one. And this one offers this is because they know college age youth as well as youth before have not been trained in that skill of learning about finances and financial literacy. Again, has literacy part on it. It's a very important piece because we'll talk about the huger agenda on that. Like you said with the banks,
Hmm.
money at the end of the day, y'all. If y'all don't know, this currency that we have is fiat. It is equal to debt. So
Hmm.
when you are able to get people into purchasing and buying things with money that they do not have, you ultimately create a cycle of a person now that is within a debt wheel that you can continue to have them paying monthly or even more on, because guess what? You just don't only pay the amount that you pay for, but there's also a principal interest that is put on top
Yeah,
of that.
it's worse than that. It's interest, like you said. It's
Yeah.
so it's not
So,
just money you don't have, but money you will not have because that interest, you're not making it back.
yes,
Yeah.
is all very important. What's
What's
going
going
on,
on here?
brother?
Yeah.
Electric, what's good?
Why are we watching a video?
Explain something. Listen.
What's going on, brother? What you got there?
Electric
Brother?
2020. I can't hear
Brother?
anything.
Exactly. Hold on. It's probably because the internet is still tripping on his side. So,
The efficiency, the brain.
yeah. So we'll end up seeing what's going on with that. But yeah. Um, but to continue with doing that, I mean, it's important pieces of skills and things of like why,
Hmm.
we need to do adulting. Part of it
Hmm.
of why too is important, when it comes to being an adult or adulting is, well, especially for if you want to create what we call generational wealth or a legacy, you gotta put some groundwork done. So as being an
Hmm.
adult, you gotta take on that responsibility to, again, because we're talking about generations on. So now you're in that generation that has that responsibility to then now move forward and show the next generation, or to bring up the next generation to know what's going on and show them the way. So that's our part. We move from being in a generation of being lackadaisical and just carefree when it comes to stuff, to starting to learn now you are shouldering the responsibility not only of a nation but also of the family to continue on a legacy and continue on family tradition. So it's important because of the fact that, shoot, you got the torch passed, now you got to run with the torch, and as you got that torch passed to you, you have to be able to, again, bring up the generations that are coming behind you. So hopefully, if there's things that you've learned from the previous generations that have not passed down that wisdom and that guidance that you needed, now you're creating and putting yourself in that situation to become that guidance and to become that person that is going to help usher and to
Hmm.
nurture as well as to bring up that next generation. So that's another piece of
Hmm.
why adulting is important. I don't know if you got something,
Yeah.
Kuman.
Yeah, it just reminded me of two things. One is the, speaking of the budget that you were talking about, right?
Yeah.
I've been reading The Myth of,
What's going on?
hello,
Peace and love.
peace and love. I've been reading
What's
The
the
Myth of
word?
Meritocracy by Malcolm Gladwell. And
Mm.
he talks about the example of these two colleges, Vassar and Bowdoin. They're very similar colleges, but one college, Bowdoin, has a five-star chef for in this cafeteria, and it has great food, but it has
Yes.
a very low. It brings in very small amount of low-income students because
Mm.
they don't have enough financial aid and scholarships for them. So it brings a very small amount of them. Vassar, on the other hand, has a high budget for low-income students, so it has brought in a lot, but
Yes.
their food totally sucks. So it's literally a decision for the college between food or money for low-income students. That's literally how they're making these
Yes.
decisions. It's crazy.
What's going on? And is yes, thank you for that, Kundin. I mean, again, that's why I was talking about the funding and how a lot of that is important. And if you're not able to do that, even though if the situation still might not make some things better, at least it puts a dent in those things. Because I know
Hmm.
we are. I mean, as a kid, the school lunch sometimes was either very good or it was extremely awful. So it just really depended on the day as well as if the school had enough money, I guess, to fund. But for me, I had a privilege because I went to a private school. So that's a whole nother different racket of when it comes to schools versus public school funding and things. But let me get this right. Is it Tanish?
Yeah,
It's
Tanish.
Tanish.
Yeah,
Nice to meet you.
nice to
And
meet you too.
welcome to What's the Word. I want to say real quickly so that if you're comfortable, this goes on YouTube. So if you're comfortable with being on here and sharing, is
Okay.
that fine?
That's okay. Yeah,
All
I
right,
guess so.
perfect.
Yeah. Um, I was just gonna add that I'm part of the millennial Gen Xer cusp. A lot of my
Yeah.
cousins are Gen Xers. I'm sort of at the older. I'm an older millennial. I think. So I think that like what I've noticed too is like breaking generational curses is like a huge thing with us, whereas like with older generations, it's not as
Yes.
important. It hasn't been a focal point, and I think that has a lot to do with creating generational wealth for our kids and just like a more healthy, like a healthier environment for the generations that come after us. And that is like an important part of adulting too, that maybe we weren't passed down from our parents or like our older siblings or cousins or whatever.
Yes.
I just wanted to,
I'm so glad that you brought that in. And if you have more, please, you can continue. Because
yes,
I guess I haven't been the only one that every time I do speak about, there's been certain, generational curses or changes that needed to be done. And I'm in the midst of doing a lot of that. It's because I looked at prior generations and see that, maybe this particular tradition that we do within a family is problematic or it, you know, doesn't necessarily help to promote anything into the future. It's like now I'm the
yeah,
deciding factor on whether I'm going to continue that cycle or
right,
I'm going to create something that's new. And this is where, as much as I love and I seek to always question things, there's a way to question things and to update things, but in a way that's not only downplaying or destroying completely of what was passed down generations before.
right,
And
right,
from what I've noticed, not a lot of us, whether it is a bit in between that Gen X into the millennial era, a lot of us didn't get that memo or that skill to be like, yo, like there are
yeah,
some things that we can learn to combine together because that's usually what updating and growing involves. You don't necessarily just shed everything and throw it out
for
without
sure.
knowing, yo, my moms, my uncles, my aunties, and great, they had this as a plan. Now, I see part of this plan still makes sense for
For
our
sure.
generation
For
now to
sure.
use, but now the other things on this list, now we could change a bit of things here because now it doesn't make sense for it now. But a lot of us are not on that. Again, we're not on that wave of awareness because of the fact that we could be in a lot of, I see a lot more promoting of dysfunctionalism among families and among relationships versus more of a firm structure, because unfortunately that's a cycle that needs to be broken and needs to be, again, retaught. But I'm so glad that you brought that up, Tanisha, about the generational curses and those cycles, because that is a very important thing right now when it comes to, I guess, this topic of adulting and moving forward. So
For
thank you for
sure.
that.
Yeah. It's like one of the reasons I waited so long to have kids. I don't have now, but I think like I didn't want to pass down these things. I didn't really understand even, but I knew that there were things that needed to heal, you know? So, for sure.
I'm grateful for that. Yeah. Again, we're still trying to figure it all out, and the importance of having mentors and people in your life that can help also guide you and at least just be an ear to you. Be like, you know, this is what I did. May not work for you right now, but watch out for that particular route if you take that. But a lot of us didn't have people like that or don't have people like
Yeah.
that in our lives, and I'll say this too. There's people within my lives that are older than me. That's not just Gen X, but also baby bloomers. I don't think I got the silent generation. If I'm getting generation names, I can't remember all of them. But Um, I go and ask about what happened in the past and learn about plans and learn about different things
Yeah.
that went on, and they're like, well, I could share you, but you're old enough now to figure it out. And it's
Yeah.
like, what do
Oh,
you mean I'm old enough now to figure it out? It's like, yo, like it would help if like you'd be like, okay, if you were to make a down payment on this, or if you wanted to have a plan, or you wanted, I keep saying plan because again, plans could look completely different, whether we're talking about housing, whether we're talking about cars, families,
for sure.
working, 9 to 5s, all of that. So I'm just using plan in general. But
Mhm.
you had this plan. Like, I want to know what yours was back then so then I know that I don't have to take another 5, 10, 15 years to figure out that that plan doesn't work for me. But
Yeah.
you're like, nah, you're old enough now so you can figure it out yourself. It's like, wow, thanks a lot. You just pushed me into the pool without even showing me that, hey, you might want to have a floaty on to first show you how to get in the water. Like, come on now.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think a lot. I mean, I think, yeah, I wasn't blessed with, I mean, in general, like, I think probably with the exception of my mom, who I lost young, which
Mm,
I'm like healed from.
my
I mean,
condolences.
she's, thank you. Um, I wasn't really blessed with like teachers in the family.
Mm,
And I think that that's like really important to like teach your kids
yes.
how to, communicate and not just communicate, but, take care of themselves and things like this. So yeah, I definitely like feel what you're saying for sure.
That's the first place of learning. It's the
Yeah,
first place. That's a foundational place of learning. So if you don't have, again, we go back to the dysfunction. If you have a place that the foundation is dysfunctional, it's going to make it harder for the child or, to grow up and to really learn a lot of these concepts. That's why you got
for
kids
sure,
coming to school with more issues than before now.
for sure.
There's so many different things. It's
A
like
lot of
I
those.
ain't worrying about math. I ain't worrying about what English and reading. Like when I go home, shoot, my mom doesn't even have food, and my mom and dad or my auntie and uncles are always yelling, pushing each other. They experiencing so much at a young age
Mhm.
that creates that trauma that then later on, like you were saying, you don't want to even pass some of that stuff on. Unfortunately, for some folks, they don't get time to register and to
I
really
know.
reflect on that, then they pass it on and unknowingly do it at times because
I know.
folks don't know how important not only just
Yeah,
traumatic experiences
yeah,
are, but how much they have an impact on us biologically. Y'all
for
don't know.
sure.
People don't know. There's a such thing as epigenetics. Y'all can look it up. And what
Mhm.
epigenetics basically is that it shows that your DNA as well as your mind and different parts of those chemicals in your body can be changed depending on just
Mhm.
the way
Oh
that you
yeah,
think
for
and what
sure.
you experience things. So
Absolutely.
that's why we have a lot of positive reinforcement or these,
Yeah,
different affirmations and sayings because again, you put yourself in that state, and I like to say it a lot too. We're not just this body, we're the soul, we're the energy, frequency, vibration. When you put yourself with a certain energy in a certain space, you start to uplift your being as yourself. So then you start becoming aware of things that you didn't think was a problem. But again, a lot of people don't have that luxury and the time to do that because we're always in, we talk about it, survival mode all the time.
Mhm.
So
yeah.
it's very hard to get to that point. But I
I
know y'all
think
got more, but continue.
no, I think a lot of people don't realize how powerful their mind really can be and how like powerful it is to reprogram, like to just sit there and go, you know,
Mhm.
I don't know, just like unlearning, and that you can do that.
Yes.
Like I think
Mhm.
that there is like this misconception that maybe kids have it kids can do this easier, and that might be true because their brains aren't fully formed.
Yeah.
But but adults can too.
Adult thing.
Yeah. It's a lot harder, but it is possible, and
Yes.
it is a frequency. It is like a love, a self, ultimate self love, which a lot of us like weren't.
Yes.
A lot of us weren't loved. I mean, let's just be real about that.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think you're right. I think, but then also like there's that other aspect too. Like it's so funny that you have this here though. current events. It's like it's not just her, it's like the system too really fights you and like tries to.
Yo,
Yes.
Freddie.
Yes. It's Anish, you breaking up a little bit, so continue again so we can hear you. But what's up, Fred? What's up?
I was gonna say like I was saying like it's like a it doesn't help that like our government doesn't do anything for us, you know. It
Mm-hmm.
doesn't help that like our kids are going through active shooter drills. Like
Mm-hmm.
teachers are
Yes.
frightened all the time. Like
Yeah.
I don't know. It doesn't help that there isn't enough.
It's because
It's all fucked up.
it's because one, we're teaching our kids to inevitably fear the world that's around them, knowing
Right.
that yes,
Mm-hmm.
we know there's danger, and you take a risk every day that you wake up to do something, but we're naturally tapping into that instance of emotional fear to everything, to a point that we don't show them the whole other side of that. Yes, you have to be aware of your surroundings. You can be a bit anxious, but still, the thing is teaching the youth how to critically think and to critically vet their situations can help avoid having to do active shooter stuff. And what that does, and it continues to add
Mm-hmm.
to what we will call a self-fulfilling prophecy, so that
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
ultimately, oh, well, since I met and saw that this person, they said that they might look like they can hurt me. Now, I think everybody else that looks like that person is going to hurt me. And
Mm-hmm.
everything that I may learn about that person, I don't even need to learn. I could just avoid them. And you don't really you miss out on so many key things, because who knows? Maybe a mentor of yours that would have helped you in your life may not have the same skin color as you, might be a different gender as you, might identify completely different from yourself. But since you're in the system, you're in the schools, and they're perpetuating more of the fear and not teaching, again, like you said, more of the life skills and really how to be. I feel like we are missing the point. Of course, I always say we're missing the point when it comes to education, 1,000%. But we're also missing a point of, we also contradict ourselves by saying we want to build and create youth and people that will be functional within society. And I feel within the school systems, I shouldn't even say I feel, I know within the school systems, we are doing the complete opposite. We are perpetuating folks to be fearful of the world outside of them, and that when something happens, we
Well,
haven't technically showed them how to respond to everything. And with the teacher shootings, I mean, with the active shooter stuff too, they even had teachers, again, now some places that have the open carry state, where they had teachers on being able to be strapped in the classrooms. And we know how problematic that could end up being. You never know of a situation to come off and the kid comes up over to the teacher, might end up grabbing. It's all convoluted,
it's just messed
bruh.
up. It's not just this though. I think we've really hit a high in fear in every aspect of society.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
That it's hard to let that go when you're
Mm.
when you're by yourself, or when you're inside, or when you're with friends, or when you're in a place that like is supposed to be safe.
Yes.
It's hard to do that. And I think you know something has to change. I think that it's not going to go on like this for much long. I can't go on like this for much longer.
Mm-hmm.
We have to be the
Too
ones
much.
to be able to do that.
Too much. Yeah, I mean we are. I mean I think that we are, right? By just having these conversations and trying to like um
Figure
elevate
things out.
ourselves. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
elevate
Mm-hmm.
ourselves. And because this conversation doesn't stay here. We take it with us wherever we go.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the
And we're
purpose.
not the only ones having it, hopefully. Yeah.
Yes. And we bring
Definitely.
this, and we bring this, and I'm gonna let Fred Wizard get up in here and do his thing. But that's why, at least we have to build together as a community, because we talk about unity and we talk about coming together, and before you can ultimately move anybody to come together to either fund, whether to go out and do, you know, rallies, all these other different things, you've got to be able to sit down and have a conversation or have talks like these with people, so then we can get on the same page. So then it's like, okay, we want to build as a community. Now we've grown not only through speaking, but we've had experiences together that now we've built some type of rapport that now, okay, shoot, you want to go out and you want to start a business? Okay, I know 4 other people that will help start funding this business, help you support the business. It may not always necessarily be monetary, but shots out again to Kundin, it may be all those other various ways of labor that you can support anybody in that particular way. But again, we allow society to influence our decisions and influence how we interact with people, and we got to be able to go over and beyond to block a lot of that out and learn that for ourselves. And then again, like I said, teach that to the generations that are going to be coming up behind us, to be able to spot these red flags that we call it and be able to learn from them, and then to figure out their own plan after we've given them our plan, so that they don't have to go through that same plan again.
Yeah.
All right, Mr. Fred Wizard, what you got?
Yo, what up?
Good to see you, man. I see that the beard stash is growing back.
Oh yeah, you got your beard back.
And you got what you got? Quasimodo? What's that shirt, bro?
Yeah.
That's it.
Quasi Public Enemy.
That's fire, bro.
But I just wanted to add that yeah, we are our conversations, you know. And one thing that I've seen, like, that it's really a pattern in our and when I say society, I'm talking about, you know, my hood. I'm talking about, you know, right here, Orange County, right? You know, and something that repeats itself is that people always tell me about how they never have these conversations because, and whatever they have, you know, whatever, how many excuses, you know, because they're misunderstood or you know, it's hard to speak up. There's many reasons of why you don't get your point across. But I've met people that say that this is something that people always say. Not many people are talking about this, and it's funny, right? Because it's like, oh, well, just start talking about it, you know. But it's sometimes, you know, being in a certain state of mind, you know, it's hard to see that, yo, like, it's all on you. And that's one of the biggest things that you ever end up recognizing, that it's all on you and you have to go out of your way to do these things. So when I say you are your conversations, because if you're just having this enlightening conversation with one person that you see once a year, nothing's, you know what I mean, unless it's that powerful, it'll carry on. But really what you start doing is you talk to everybody about it that you see often, you know. And everything starts in the center, right? So you know, from your household to your friends, everywhere.
I think you have to surround yourself with people who let you have these conversations, for sure.
Yes, that's how you build. You gotta know. Look, we have to find, and shouts out to the brother Vic, or I should say Phase Fair. We gotta find builders in our lives. Not some makeshift folks that is just gonna be there for a second and then just let things topple, but like people who's gonna be down there in the groundwork with you. And when I mean builder, it don't necessarily mean like, oh yeah, built this whole house for me, but metaphorically speaking, someone who's gonna be there to help support you in whatever decisions and things that you end up making, and to be able to ride with you, or to even give you some critiques and some criticisms that are to be there to build you, not just to be a yes person, yes man, whoever it is.
That's what happens. That's what happens when you speak your truth, right? You keep repeating it. You know, you keep reminding people that this is what you're on, this is what you're about, and this is what you care about. And the people that aren't about it and don't align with let's say, you know, your truth, they'll leave. Like, you know, people can only hear you for so long before they're over it. And I remember, you know, where you have to start putting things into practice. I remember having a bunch of friends at one point, and we would all kick it on the block. And then I remember one day I was like, man, I'm tired of this. You know, we're not doing anything to better ourselves. And I told all of them, I don't want to kick it no more. Like, let's pull up, let's put it work. it went from 15 to 3. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
real quick. And it's like, okay, well, that's what happens when you speak up and you speak your mind. You know, things end up making their way or getting out of the way. So, you know, and it's hard. Like they're very, very hard conversations. Like you know, people. There's certain things that people don't want to hear. You know,
Yeah.
that blindness. But you have to change the conversation. You know, and I couldn't really see, you know, like my friends or my family or certain people around me just kind of talk about certain things that I'm like, yo, really like. So it's like stop keeping up with the Kardashians. Let's keep up with ourselves, right? So it's like
Yeah.
that's kind of like the angle I come from, and it's like, you know, you're watching your people talk themselves to death. You know what I mean? Like like everything you ever thought you sacrificed, your own words are killing you. You know, so then you end up changing that, and then you start speaking about building, right? Because really, a lot
Yeah.
of these words go out here to the hood. They're destroying destructive words. Like people speak in this manner, and then that kills everything. That kills the spirit, that kills the mind, and eventually your physical, right? And and pay attention to that. You know, even me, bro. Sometimes I still jump into certain worlds just to come back and learn from it. And you know, one thing that taught me a lot was when I was in that world of you know, a lot of people around me were drug addicts. You know, and there was a way that they would speak. You know what I mean? And then you go to a school, and then you go to you know, you end up in a meeting somewhere with these really professional people that are you know successful or at least reaching success pretty soon because of, you know, of the drive.
Yeah.
What they're talking about is, you know what I mean? It's so when I say you are your conversations, like you are your conversations, and there's a lot to learn everywhere, but you always gotta take it back to where you're home, right?
Yes.
And then you keep speaking about it, and who's listening, right? The little kids that are there.
That's
Yeah.
very true.
Hmm.
Continue. Look, I'm gonna pose another question out there for adulting, and then after that, we're gonna switch to the last topic. And everybody's still welcome to still stay. I appreciate y'all. Last question I want to at least put in when it comes to adulting, because we've went around and really talked specific instances of, you know, how it has affected, whether it went from the school system to family structure to, you know, how you interact with people and folks all around you. Last question I want to throw out there when it comes to adulting is where where do we begin to take that title of being an adult? So what I mean with adult, we know some of the characteristics or values is responsibility, accountability,
You
you
saw I
know,
broke it
a
down?
few so things. Yeah, brother. So literally,
Adult thing.
I thought that was what you were referring to. I thought you were on some like, I thought that's what you were on. So I was like, oh, I thought that's what you were referring to when you were trying to tell us to break it down. But
oh,
cause
go
you know,
into it.
you be doing it. Yeah, and so because what is being an adult, right? You know, like I keep hearing like, you know, responsible, all this shit. But I don't know. When I think of, when I thought of an adult when I was a kid, I thought, man, an adult has it figured out, and
Mm,
that's not the case, right? You know, we don't have it figured out, and then like, I mean, am I an adult? You know, what's the age of an adult? I'm 22. You know, but I've met motherfuckers that were like 16, 17 or younger when they had to become an adult, right? So what is an adult? You know, it's a trip. But I think it's like I said, I used to think is when you had it figured out, and now I know that it's admitting that you don't and still handling, you know. So I don't know, man. I just moved
mm,
out my pad, and a lot of shit's hitting me. But you know, all of these things make you stronger, you know, like. But a lot of things, and hopefully, you know, we'll get that one on one. But like a lot of shit is like happening, you know, really fast. And all you can do is stay grounded, right? And
yeah,
but yeah, adulting, I don't know. That was always been a weird thing, right? Becoming an adult, you know.
yeah.
And then me being
Right.
me, you know, doing the shit that I do, bro. Like, you know, like really, I'm a fucking kid, you know. And you know what I mean? Like, and like I'd rather be a kid, you know, because like I don't know that an adult thing. That's kind of what I got from it, because it's like, yeah, you want to grow up and just like act like you know what's up. And I don't know.
No,
That's
I'm
what.
glad you. No, I'm glad you brought it up too. And shouts out to Electric. I see you in there, bro, with these book long paragraphs and answers. I appreciate you, brother. Um, But yeah, I'm glad you brought up that point because again, that adult phase can look different for so many other people. Because I thought about it. There's kids who they end up becoming a quote unquote adult at like the age of 10, like 12, even like still in their youth, in their childhood, and they have to take
Especially
on
the child
responsibilities and
actors, the
stuff.
child stars, right? Or the kids who become programmers when they're like 14, or they get their PhD when they're 18. Some
Yeah.
of
There's so
the
you
genius kids, yeah.
know, yeah, I see them. I mean, I think adulting is a commitment to growth,
Mm.
Mm,
commitment to like doing better.
Mm.
mm,
And a lot of that sort of builds on, or maybe is the foundation of what you said. Is it Fred or Freddie? I mean, none of this is like.
Yeah.
I think they go hand in hand. Like,
Yeah.
mhm,
but like, yeah. I mean, I think that like I'm still learning. I'm learning. I'm learning how to.
Yes.
I'm just always trying to do better. I mean, and you know, it's like admitting when you fuck up. It's like admitting when
mhm.
it's
Yeah.
like there's a lot of atonement that happens. I mean, um, a lot of you know this type of thing.
Yeah. You gotta be willing again when. And I'll definitely say this of to answer the question itself. And y'all both did, all of y'all did. Um, where do you basically begin to take that chance to be an adult? Is right when you start to decide to take on the responsibility of growing and getting better. And that's when you really move over into that phase of becoming an adult. And yes, there's going to be times where you don't know what's going on. You're not going to
Right.
have it figured out. But I always say this, and for me, it's a foundation for me. Knowledge of self, such a
Yeah.
foundation. You
Mm-hmm.
gotta have at least some
Absolutely.
foundation
Self-awareness.
of knowing of who you are. Awareness,
Absolutely.
awareness, and other keys in there. So reason why I
You don't
say
know
that
where
is
you're going with it.
because hold on, I know you got it. You were the hip hopper in the building with all of this,
You,
but
you know what I was talking
look.
about, right?
But hold on. I know you do, but hold on before I forget this thought, because y'all really going in and helping me remember. Um, but with doing that and having that said knowledge of self and that foundation, you start to learn not only naturally a lot of the skills come out for you to move to that responsibility, but then you also learn that life is made up of not only our accomplishments, our failures, but also our mistakes, and that we are our mistakes. Shout out to
Mhm.
Rocky Angelini up in the building whenever. But literally you have to learn how to love on yourself, because I think that's
Mm-hmm.
what happens. We start to see that when we fail or we're not where we're at the particular age
Mm-hmm.
that we're supposed to be doing what we're doing. Like there's a book that says, okay, at this age you should already know how to read at a 10th grade level, or at
Right.
this age you should already
Right?
have
It's so
a wife and
arbitrary.
kids and stuff. So there's no set pattern on how things are supposed to be done. There's a general, so at least you know, okay, where's some idea to go. But on that process of growing and moving as an adult and as an individual, just still figuring things stuff out, you got to love on yourself. You got to know
Yeah.
that, yes, I'm going to fail, but ultimately failure is not the last thing that's it. That life is
I hear,
over
I
Yeah.
hear,
after
I
that.
hear
I
what
mean,
you're
like,
saying. I hear
it
what you're
makes me
saying.
think about the priorities of this culture where kids are told that they're legally allowed to carry a weapon and kill people in foreign countries, but they're, at that
Mm,
same age, they're still not allowed to drink, they're still not allowed to smoke, but they're allowed to kill people in foreign countries.
mm-hmm,
Yeah.
Talking about the fact that you can
There's
enlist in
no
the U.S. military
accountability.
when you're 18, but at 18, you're still not allowed to drink or smoke. So,
mm-hmm,
Also, like, what kind of person do you become when you've like failed? And like what I'm okay, I guess what I'm trying to say is like
mm-hmm,
when you're in the process of failing, like you know, like what type of shit did you end up doing? Like, did you, let's say someone who fails, you know, they had to deceive somebody to come up. Like, did you do that, or is it more like, no, you just kept, you know, the discipline. And eventually, you succeeded, you know, and then when you did succeed, you know, what kind of a person were you at that time? You know, were you honest, or were you know,
Right.
like what you know, like it's like what kind of a person are you when you have everything, and what kind of person are you when you have nothing?
Right.
Like
Nothing.
you know,
Yep.
yeah, you know, that's
Yep.
kind of what I thought when we were talking
And
about
who
that.
do you, yeah, and like who do you help and
Mm,
why?
yeah.
Yeah,
I
So
think that
your
was helpful.
intentions, your
Yeah.
values,
Intentions.
as well as your purposes and your whys. That's why. That's why it's important to at least get those foundations, not only the knowledge itself, but also your purpose and your whys. It don't necessarily have to be, I'm gonna change the whole world when in the palm of my hands with what the decisions and stuff would I make. No, maybe your why can be like, yo, I'm just trying to help young Tristan down the
Mm-hmm.
street just learn how to ride a bike. Maybe that might be it, and then it might grow to something else beyond that. But definitely having, purposes and whys pushes
Mm-hmm.
people to then know, okay, what is my true intention when it comes to me living and being a being and a person, or in this particular case, being an adult. What am I going to contribute, not only just to society, but it can be just in your immediate household? What are you going to bring? Not to this proverbial table. We're not going to get into that whole discussion. But again, just bring it back to the point of, okay, then so what does it mean to be an adult to you? And then how do you go about doing that? Are you going to use it to harm and hurt others, or are you
Mm-hmm.
going to use it to uplift and
Yeah.
grow with others? If y'all have any last little
So
points on
I
it too,
have,
please continue.
I don't have a point, but I have a question for all of you. Like,
Mm,
what do you all think of this arbitrary number of age 21 as an adult, right? Like, if you were put in charge of public policy, or let's say if you became president of the United States, like, would you keep it at 21 or would you change it and why?
mm,
that's a good question. I don't know because you know what happened that people were turned 21 that like oh this is a good age to say that this is when you're legally an adult, right?
mm-hmm.
Uh-huh.
I
Well, I
remember one
think
time.
actually, yeah. I think actually it's 18. Even though they're not allowed to do, like 18-year-olds
Oh
aren't
yeah, for
allowed to
sure.
do things like drink or even rent. At 21-year-olds aren't allowed to rent a car in certain states. I know in
Yeah.
California you're not allowed. You have to be
Several.
like
Mm.
25 or something.
So you can't get
Yep.
weed or
And
Oh
that is
yeah,
the
18 is the
age.
legal age of consent also,
Yeah.
right? Yeah,
18 is
yeah.
the legal age of consent, yeah. I
And
think that we need to do way better with our education, K through 12, before we
Mm.
can even talk about whether or not 18-year-olds or 21-year-olds are adults. I don't think
Mm.
we give I
There
don't
you
think
go.
we give them anything to our
yes,
kids.
Hmm.
I
yeah, I
agree
know
with
because
that
like
point.
after high school, like you know supposedly like you know whatever is happening during this you know these school years is like it's preparing you for the real world is what they always fucking tell you, right?
Yeah.
And then you go out to the real world and you're like, what the fuck,
Yep.
Right.
like you don't really know what's up, you know. And then I remember like not too long ago, like I'm over here like barely learning about all this shit. I'm like, wait, why wasn't I taught this? Like
Yep.
this is something that they should have been taught, right? And like just so many things, man. And I'm like,
Yeah, me
oh,
too.
but like I don't know, it's just crazy to me. But I remember one time I have a funny memory about like I think a sophomore year. You know, the teacher asked us like, what age should you be to legally buy alcohol or cigarettes
Mm.
Yep.
and you know, and I was like, you know what, like I told him how I thought that was bullshit because you know you can push the legal drinking age to 60. Motherfuckers are not gonna wait till they're
I know.
60. Like you know, what I mean, people are gonna keep like if you're fucking 10 years old and you want to fucking get your hands on a beer, you're gonna make it happen. You're gonna go out and you're gonna steal a beer. You're gonna fucking you know. So it's like I think law and like and that was my logic behind it. You know, like you know, because it's like I drank way before 21. You know what I mean? It's like oh, I'll have to
Mm.
wait. It's like so the laws are funny. You know, laws are like it's a trip, and I think you know if they put the adult age at 30, like I'm telling you, we're still gonna have adults at 16. You know, it's
Yeah.
just
Mhm.
it's your
Yeah.
experiences and how you handle them is what makes you.
Mhm.
Peace out.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
yeah, that's kind of my take on that.
Yeah, it's all relative.
I feel that. I will say this, man. On top of all that y'all said too, um, the only other way, if we were had to come up with a different number to put in place there, I would definitely vie for either 25 to 27. Because supposedly, like, this is me coming when it comes biology wise, since we have the
I
prefrontal
was thinking the
cortex.
same.
Our
Yeah.
brain isn't fully developed and grown until about 25 and between there to 27. So that
Mm-hmm.
would be a range of where, if we had to put an age, I would put that as an age. But ultimately, I agree with all of y'all. I know some folks and kids who literally was all they had to do if they wanted to get something to drink, something to smoke. All they had to do was go pay an adult to go into those places, get it for them, and give it off right back to them. They knew their ways to get around that. So regardless of how we
Yeah,
have these
and
restrictions in
not even with
place,
drugs,
but
right?
yeah,
Not even with drugs. Like, you know, some kids or adults had to learn how to drive a car. You know, way before they were legally allowed to drive one. You know,
yeah,
you know, some kids had to raise their younger siblings or whatever, and like, you know, shouldn't and do I have to raise the kids? It's like no, but another kid has to raise kids because that's how things were for those people. So like so many things, right? Like it's a trip. It's a trip for sure. But
yeah,
I don't know,
Yeah,
lost
and
like
two,
I
yeah.
said.
and two, it's like what you do with what it's like how you grow, like how you learn from what your experiences are too. Like
Yes.
if if you constantly get knocked down and you just stay down and you know what I mean, like not to say that like I mean I'm using myself as an example, but
What's up,
like
David?
you know you like you're just like constantly down on yourself. Like I wouldn't say that you're not an adult, but I would say that still you're you still need to learn from your mistakes. Like you still need to learn from
Mm-hmm.
not even your mistakes, but like learn that sometimes, I mean, a lot of times it's not your fault.
Yeah.
And you know, if you internalize these things, then you just constantly are in the world thinking that everything is your fault, and that's not good either. And I don't know.
There's a balance needed.
But
And again,
does that mean that you're like not an adult? I don't know. Like if I know that like that kind of affects the way that you interact with the world.
yeah.
And
Look,
it does
look at Michael Jackson.
say, I'm
Mm-hmm.
sorry, say again.
Michael Jackson.
Yeah. Well,
Exactly.
Michael Jackson.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like you still interact with the world as a child. Um,
We just need places to you know, like I feel like people that they realize they have a problem, right? Like something is making them unhappy or something is whatever, right? This is not right. You know, you feel it's wrong and like um it's like where the fuck do you go?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then a lot of people is like, okay, well, my life is going to school where clearly like no one's fucking giving a fuck about this shit. And then obviously that's also like not fully true because there's cases where like you know school helped out certain people. But I remember being in school when there's like there was so much shit going on
Yeah.
that like I'm sorry, Miss whatever. Like I'm not really my mind isn't really on this fucking
right.
subject right now, you
Right.
know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so
For sure.
and then you go to work and then you know home and then it's so all these places you can't speak about what you really want to speak. Something's wrong. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And then so obviously you know then we have like I'm telling you like you have when you notice something just like I've done it already and that's why I know what I'm talking about where it's like you have to initiate the conversation and it's fucking hard. Like I've sat there like like damn like you know like you like in like 30 minutes bro like it kind of feels like the process of unlearning
Yeah.
and realizing all the shit that you overlooked your whole it's fucking insane and it feels like in one sitting you like lived a whole lifetime of shit because I've gone deep with motherfuckers and like
Mm.
but it's like why is this happening you know what I mean like you know like just in a random place like you know I have talked with people like 2 in the morning at a fucking rooftop parking structure. Like, it's like, what the fuck? Why couldn't I have this at my house? Why couldn't I have this at school? Why couldn't I have this at fucking church? Right? Like,
Yeah.
it's crazy shit. So I think, you know,
Yeah.
you know this is a problem. and it's up to us to like create those places. Like one way I do it is I fucking do these shows. And somebody can be like, oh, like you're throwing shows, your fools are just partying and shit. Like, no, hold up, come to the show, and tell me you don't fucking feel like there's a change going on. You know what I mean? So we just have to do that shit. Offer spaces where
Mm-hmm.
people can express themselves, because everything that I see that society is doing is helping
Suppressing.
us not. So, yeah, exactly. So suppressing us, and getting us to try to like conform and be like everybody else. And there's a standard, right? And it's like, yo, that's all bullshit. Like, that's a lie. So you have to really just pull back the fucking like the curtains, and show people what the truth is. And it's hard. It's fucking hard.
Yeah,
Like,
it's hard.
I've seen motherfuckers cry, like, having certain talks, and it's because you fucking suppressed it for how many years.
Yep.
Right.
But you got to talk about this shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a shame thing.
Yes.
You're too ashamed to talk about it, or don't know how to you don't know how to open up and be vulnerable because of the fear of shame. I
Yes.
think is a big part of it.
Yep. Again, the use of the emotions. But with that, so I'm loving this, man. I love the convos back and forth with it, but I at least want to get some time for the last topic before we even think of closing out tonight. So the last
Why
topic I
do we
got for
make
y'all,
things so
yeah. So
complicated?
why? That's a topic for last topic for tonight is why do we make things
No,
so
return it.
complicated? Now, again,
Hmm.
we can take this anywhere, however we want to speak on this and talk about it. But the initial question to y'all then is, why do we make things so complicated? Whatever these things are, but why do we make them so complicated?
Yeah, the key
Damn,
word
that's a
is
trip.
we. The key word is we, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because it's a systemic collective issue, even similar to the
Yeah.
adult thing. Because there's a wonderful TED Talk I recommend what you all watch. It's from a guy from Thailand, and he still lives in Thailand. It's called Life is So Easy, Why Do We Make It So Hard? That's the title.
Mm.
And basically, he created a collective farming, community, uh, basically recreating what we used to have in the past, where we would grow
Mm.
food together and have a real community and eat the food that we grow, and where money wasn't such an issue because we were growing our own food and eating that food that we grow, but we were
Yes.
dependent on each other in that very interdependent way rather than codependent way. So there was that balance between independence and dependence on each other. And he used to work in the corporate sector, in the corporate
Hmm.
world,
Hmm.
before he quit and started that collective farming community. And he
Mm.
talks
That's
about how
awesome.
like life is so much more easy for him now because he did that. But
Exactly.
he could not have done that alone. He needed to create that community, that collective community. So
Yes.
yes, life can be made simple and even easy, but it needs that collective organization. Like we have to become leaders and reclaim the
Mm-hmm.
world from the colonizers and recreate the
Yeah.
world that we envision.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
Anything you got with that, Tanisha? Anything else that comes to mind, or why we make things so complicated?
Yeah, I think I agree with everything that Tendon was saying. Like, is it that we make things complicated, or is it that the structure is so complicated we don't know where to? I
Mm.
think of it as cobwebs. Like, it's in some of my poems. It's
Hmm.
like cobwebs, and we're kind of like trapped in them. And like, how do you? I mean, and then that like spins around in your head, and like,
Yeah.
I
It's a
don't think
great
human
question,
beings are.
right? Do
Yeah,
we
Yes.
make it complicated or do we perpetuate the complication that already exists?
that is like
And
so
why do we, that's the
oppressive,
real
right?
question. Why
I
do we
think that's
perpetuate the complication that already exists instead of stopping it?
because it's so much,
Yeah.
because it's so ingrained in our like 9 to 5, like
There you
it's
go.
just this school for 8 hours, 7 hours, and then that kind of
Hmm.
mirrors the 9 to 5. It's like college, which is different, and it's like the only different thing. And then you go and you graduate, and like, not everyone goes to college, but
Mm-hmm.
or you'll just go straight to work, and it's like,
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Yeah. No, that's very. I mean, that's a lot of that is very true. To why we do that. Reason why, like I said, I'm glad Kunin and a few y'all caught that was yes. Again, for those, I'm gonna keep doing it until people get annoyed or they're just gonna be like, okay, whatever, not trying to hear you out. But there's a reason why I pair all of these topics and things together purposefully. Because again, a part of why we make things so complicated too, not only just because it's a collective, but also since we still have no clue and no or not no clue, we have little clues to understanding how to be an adult when we come out from these different facilities in these different places. It makes it harder for us to function together to make things less stressful as well as less complicated versus okay, now I got the blueprint for this. Oh, now you have that, so you know how to work that. I know how to work this. Now let's put this all together so then now when you want to learn about this, I'm your go-to person. When you want to know how to do that, she's your go-to person or they're their go-to person.
Mm-hmm.
And what we do is, and again, I'm gonna go back to a point that I had when it comes to, and bro, I think your camera is tripping, bro. I'm hearing something in the background.
Oh
um
yeah.
but that's when we have the issue again of
Oh yeah.
not
Freddie's
knowing,
camera, right?
not knowing the prior plan, and us not knowing what particular roles and parts to play because of the fact that we want to play every single thing or we want to redo this whole system and just destroy everything without knowing, okay, this is the part that I'm going to play, the role that I'm going
We
to
don't even
have
know
in
how it
this.
works. It's a lot of
Exactly.
smoke and mirrors,
We
and we only
cannot
see
hear
the
you.
smoke.
We cannot
yeah.
hear you, Freddie. And what you're gonna need to do, bro, is you gotta exit out, man, because you making a lot of noise, my man.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Aw.
Yeah.
I have to go
Oh.
actually because I have like laundry.
Oh.
I have to leave
Handle
tomorrow
it.
at
Speaking of
5.
adulting, laundry.
I have
Yep.
to leave at 5 a.m. tomorrow. I'm going to
Oh.
visit family, and I lost my
Okay.
keys
Wow.
between like in the elevator, and then I had to ask my landlord for a spare key
Oh
for my
my gosh.
apartment, and then I had to ask the neighbor for the laundry keys. It's kind of a mess, and now I have to like finish
Hmm.
the laundry and like do the packing and stuff. But this has
Yes.
been
Hmm.
so good. Like I
Yes.
Have a good
so
trip.
good. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah. You're more welcome to
Yeah.
come
It's been
back
great.
anytime. Is
Okay,
every
Hmm.
Wednesdays around at 8 p.m. So I appreciate
okay,
you coming on, Tanisha, and sharing your perspective. Now go ahead and get back to your adulting
for
and please
sure,
get some rest and drive safe wherever you gotta go to go see family. So thank you
for
for
sure.
coming on. Right, we'll
Bye,
see you.
Catherine. See
Yeah.
you
Peace
soon.
and love.
Soon. Same.
Yeah. That was cool. Yeah. I was
Yes.
just saying, it's a lot of smoke and mirrors, but we're only shown the mirror. We're only shown the smoke. We don't
Yes.
see the mirror behind it. We only see the smoke. That's how it's designed. So
Yes.
people talk about destroying the system, but they're not. A lot of people don't even know how it actually works. Even the current system, right?
Yeah.
It's designed that way. Like, I spoke about this book earlier. One of my favorite stories from this
Mm.
book, Leave from the Outside, is when she was at Spelman College, which is the college she went to.
Yes.
She was by chance, so there was a tuition hike and people were protesting. And around that time, by chance, she saw like a notice on the notice board for a board meeting of the board of trustees where they were discussing financial operations. So she decided to attend because she wanted to really understand
Yeah.
what's going on. So she went there and knocked on the door, and she kind of knew the president because she had something to do with student government as well. And when she
Yes.
knocked on the door, at first, they were a little bit annoyed or irritated that she wanted to attend the meeting. But then
Hmm.
the president was like, there's actually no rule or law against a student attending, you
Hmm.
know, so let's let her attend. So, and she attended, and they let her borrow one of their, their the financial book with all
Yes.
the checks and balances. One of the members let her borrow it, but she kept coming. So eventually
Mm,
she earned her own copy of the financial book, and so she started learning directly from the people running it, right?
hmm.
And that's a very rare chance to really understand like what's happening behind the scenes that
Yes.
most students didn't even get. In fact, she was the only one who attended these meetings, even at that college.
And that, and again, um, just a point to not just only the adulting, but taking the initiative to not only want to learn, but to know what you're getting yourselves into and what you've invested
Hmm.
yourself into. That's like me
Yeah.
literally just like coming and asking you for a cookie, and you like make these amazing cookies, and all I do is I keep coming back and coming back and coming back. But one day
Hmm.
you offer and you say that, yo, there's actually an easy way to do this. I appreciate you always coming and supporting, but I can also show you how to make this type of cookie, even though we have this other one. And you
Hmm.
decide to come in, and even though it's some of your other time that you're like I can't, but like you make the initiative to find time to
Hmm.
do so, and you're
Yeah.
able to, take that on, and you finally get it. Freddie, I'm still hearing like some click clacking, man. Wherever you got next behind it, bro, is tripping, tripping. Yeah, straight up on the face. But I mean, yes, definitely to your point
Yeah.
is taking that and taking on that drive and the responsibility to just go ahead and go with it. But again, it could have
Yeah.
been
It's easier to
complicated.
influence change if you understand what's going on rather than just protesting, right? Because,
Yeah,
like the example of Malcolm Gladwell, where he had to make a hard decision between food or more money for low income people, right?
yeah,
And so all of those little key decisions, you don't know what's happening behind the scenes. But she was smart enough and took the initiative to actually be there and be in the center of like what's happening behind the scenes. So it's
yes.
easier to influence once if you actually understand first. Most people don't even understand.
Mm. Now to you, Mr. Fred Wizard, why do we make things so complicated?
Look, man, I think crazy. It's crazy. You, I was talking about this the other day. I trip out. I'm saying I'm gonna say the same, whole different question.
Hmm.
But but my point is, uh, uh, people are living in this living in this fantasy, and the truth is going to do its job, and it's going to have your illusions destroyed every single time. And
Mm.
fantasy
Hmm.
is like, what are you looking at time? And you're always on your phone, you're looking at the highlights that people are living, and then
Yeah.
you compare that to your life, and
Hmm.
you're in the fantasy, right, you already lost right then and there, right? And then so people suffer because of wishful thinking. They suffer,
Mm.
like on false, assumptions, and like I think that's creates unnecessary suffering. Because if you just suffer on what you're supposed to be suffering, that's cool.
Yeah.
Like that, it shapes you into a stronger human, whatever the fuck, right? A better person. But if you're torturing yourself because you don't have as much shoes as this other motherfucker has, or your house is smaller
Hmm.
than this person, or this person smiles a lot in their pictures and you're not really happy, like shit like that's
Mm.
crazy. And I feel like a lot of people live in these little illusion fantasies of what they think life should be. And I don't like when people say like the whole like pursuit of happiness, and it kind of sounds like weird to kind of like this that, but like yeah, like you're not trying to be happy all the time. That's kind of like some wires have to be like not there, like fucked around with. Like it's crazy to
Yeah.
that you're gonna be happy. Happiness is
Yeah,
emotion.
it's impossible and
Yes,
Yeah.
not even healthy,
and life is a roller coaster of many emotions, but it's how you handle those emotions, how you react to all the shit
Hmm.
that's going on. Whether you're and I think that's a part of being an adult, right? Because something might upset you, but certain things have to be done. Like there's different types of work. There's work that you don't want to do, but you have to do it, and then there's work that you might like doing. It's still work. So I think people suffer because they're tripping on shit that's not real. And we know when you trip on something that's real,
Yeah.
you figure it out, right? Like, so why are you
Mm-hmm.
worried about things that are out of your control? You know,
Yeah.
like which is other people's lives. And I like to talk about like force, and we know everybody is their own force, and there's many things that you can accomplish with your own force, whether it's
Mm-hmm.
you want to attain something, whatever, right? But the moment that you include another force, which is another person, if they're not on what you're on, it'll cause friction, you know. And I like to talk about the example of when you love somebody that doesn't love you, right? You see that in movies, and it's in songs everywhere. It's like it fucking breaks your heart, but you have to get over the fact that, well, motherfucker, this person does not like you back. So
Yeah.
if you're in your mind, like you fucking, you know, you want to marry them and you want to like live happily ever after. It's like, bro, they don't even fucking like you, you know.
Yeah.
But you're living on that illusion, and you're fucking killing yourself every day and every day, and that creates suffering. But you know, suffering like that is like literally like the moment you snap out of it, your whole life will change. And I think um, adulting, right? Becoming an adult and unlearning a lot of shit, you have to keep dying, right? You have
Mm.
to keep telling, like, you know. And I think life or God, whatever you want to call it, the universe, like it's a constant reminder of that you're a fucking fool. You know, you think you know what you
Mm.
don't, and it's like so you have to really humble yourself and know what to like, know what you can control, know what you can't control. And I think you are what you consume. And
Yeah.
who I am now, I like who I am now way more than I liked who I was back then, you know. And for me, that's a success. You know, obviously I have
Yes.
many other things that I want to reach in success, but that's a success right there. It's like, all right, you know, I fucking like who I am, you know, like,
Yeah.
you know, and with my flaws or whatever, but like I understand this, and you are what you consume. So if you consume a lot of bullshit, your life's gonna be bullshit.
Yeah.
And you know, like, you know, you are what you eat. You know, you are what you read. You are every way you consume. You know, the shit that you hear that's constantly around you, the conversations people are having around you, you know, the shit you're seeing, like feeling, whatever, like all that shit, you got to check all that shit. I was talking to a yogi, and he told me that he was talking about being holy, and he said that what holy means is you have to keep your holes in check. You're right. Shout out to MF Doom.
Mm.
You know, it makes me think back to that song. Like, what was he really trying to say? You know, but keep your
Yeah.
holes in check, right? You know, what you see, what you hear, what you eat, what you fucking, you know what I mean? Who you fuck, like all this shit, man. Keep your hoes in check, and learn to become holy. And then it's not even like you know, you're a saint or whatever, but it's like, you know, you want to be as most pure as you can be, you know, as healthy as you can be, because whatever happens in your life, you're gonna be able to maneuver through it in the best way possible, and you won't be fucking complaining. And I feel like people complain a lot. And what is complaining, right? Like you're met with defeat, and oh, that's it. All that you can do is just fucking talk about it. No, so complaining is a trip too. You know, watch out for people that complain a lot. You know, because
Mm-hmm.
motherfuckers that don't complain, they're just basically handling business. So I think it's crazy. You know, this all ties into just, you know, being an adult and unlearning a lot of shit, constantly checking yourself, and this chess, not checkers. So,
Yes.
okay.
Yeah, another
We
thing that
dying.
I thought about is, the culture in the United States, part of what makes it complicated and also
Yes.
might interfere with adulting is, I think part of adulting is being able to relate to others,
Mm-hmm.
and yes, if somebody that you're living with is actually abusive or violent or whatever, then you should leave, right?
Yeah.
But I wonder if more and more so-called adults are, leaving their parents or even leaving their friends, are trying to more and more live alone, right?
Yeah.
And using money as a replacement for relationships rather than trying to make it work, you know.
Yeah. No.
And
Mm-hmm.
in fact, there was, several years ago, like this must have been by over 10 years ago, when this very famous Bollywood star, Indian actress Aishwarya Rai came to the United States, and
Hmm.
she got interviewed by, I think, Jay Leno, or one of their big comedians at that time. And he was making fun of her because she was still living with her parents. And she was like, "You don't understand, it's a different culture." you know, and she even quipped, well, at least I don't have to make an appointment just to see my parents, you know.
Yeah.
Damn.
And and she's a multimillionaire. She could, if she wanted to, buy her own house, live on her own, which would, of course, again benefit the big banks, the real estate companies, and at the end of the day, they don't actually benefit her because she's now away from her parents, you know.
Yeah.
So that's a question to think about too. Like, are we using money and this whole culture of hyper independence and hyper individualism, right, as a replacement for real relationships and saying, oh, you know, I don't have to live with you. I can just live on my own and live alone because I can relate to people.
Yeah, it's
To put into
crazy.
part
You're
of
right
that,
about that, Cooley.
but to put into part of that with it, that's why we make it so convoluted and complicated. Because again, when we can
Mm-hmm.
confuse and make things so foreign to people, then we don't get people on the same page. And when you don't have people on
Mm-hmm.
the same page, that means you're gonna have multiple people looking for multiple different solutions. So that means they're
Mm-hmm.
gonna be paying into multiple different ways to figure things out. And in that particular case, to answer your question, to you, Kundin, yes, it has, and we are seeing the effects of that right now. Whether it is the radicalization, at least in my perspective, the radicalization, and YouTube, don't get me on this. Instagram, y'all don't get me on this either. The radicalization of feminism and
Mm-hmm.
its point has been lost again with a lot of movements as they continue to gain steam, notoriety, and eyes within the news. You start to see them railroad off the initial track. Because if you go look up the word feminism, supposedly it's supposed to be equal rights for both genders. But the way that it's set up now, it's catering towards more of a structure that we would see now more as one superior over the other. It seems like I just want to take your spot in line. So get behind me. I don't care that we can stand in line right here together. Nah, I want to be in front of you in the line and you be behind me. But my point that I'm saying to that is
Mm-hmm.
once you're able again to dig into that individualism, the extreme aspect of it, break away the nuclear family, the nucleus, the core of any organism or system, then you can start to create more and more problems, more and more financial opportunities, as well as more and more control and domestication of
Yeah,
people.
I think people got the whole independent shit wrong. Independent doesn't mean like you're just by yourself. You know what I mean? Like I think, bro, the disconnect that we are experiencing is fucking crazy. You
Yes.
know, and it motivates me even more to throw shows bro. Pretty soon there's gonna be workshops. Like there's so much ideas that are
Yes.
coming in, and it's like,
Mm-hmm.
and you know what I mean? Like this shit has to be done. You know, and it's crazy how there's people that look at you
Like the show you
crazy.
just did,
You know
the
what I mean?
for
It's
the
like, bro,
fans,
like,
that one, right?
you know what I mean?
For
My
the
Yeah.
goal is to
fans,
bring
right?
people together.
Yeah. That's the
But
main
anyways,
point.
I'm gonna wrap it up real quick right here.
Handle what you gotta do, brother.
But
Appreciate it, man.
I wanted to just to reflect real quick on what Kuna was saying about, like, you know, like being with your family and stuff. I think it's simple. It's like, are you living with your parents or are your parents living with you? You know, I
Mm-hmm.
think that really defines like what's really fucking cracking as far as like
Mm-hmm.
you getting down to business. You know, and I think like if your family's dope, like, if your family's cool, like bro, early today, or I heard it where like someone was kind of saying like, oh, I still live with my fam, and they kind of said it were like they want to move out, but it's hard out here. I'm like, bro, like
Mm-hmm.
I kind of thought like if your family gets down, if your family like, you know, like is with it, and you guys can all move. Who does not want to move up with their family? You know what I mean? But if your
Mm-hmm.
family is like, yo, like, you know, like they're not with it, they're not supporting the movement, like they're, you know, they're fucking doing shit, then it's like, so I think, but socially, it's like, oh, this person still lives with their parents. It's like, well, you don't even know how things are even getting down. You know, what if this person
Mm-hmm.
is taking care of both their parents and their grandparents or whatever? Like, you never really know how it is. You know, there's many reasons as to why people don't move.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I had a dip. Really, it would have been smarter if I stayed. Like as far as how other people are concerned, but for me, it would have
Yeah.
been a mistake if I didn't do this now. You know, because
Mm-hmm.
there's somewhere where I'm trying to go, and
it takes me getting out a little earlier, you know. But
Yeah.
it's fucking crazy, and I think we make our decisions, and it's like handle your fucking shit, bro. You know what I mean? I think that's all it is. Just handle your shit, and if you can't handle your shit, no one's gonna handle it, you know. And I think that it's simple as that. And that's when you want to talk about why people complicate things is because people want to do everything. They want to do all this shit. They want to do all this malade, all this like, and then they don't want to handle nothing. And I
Yeah.
think I was talking to this dude. He's like 10 years older than me, and he was saying that he's like bro, he's like you're at the point of your life where you can have fun right now. He's like I'm at the point in my life where I have to fix a lot of things, and I was like fuck. I was like whoa, like, and then I was
Mm-hmm.
like I kind of thought to myself, if I hit 30, am I going to be there too thinking I have to fix a lot of shit, or should I just fix all this shit now, keep fixing a lot exact right, and then not have to be tripping on like fuck I'm already grown and have to fix a lot of shit like no like shit was being fixed already. You know what I mean? Like so
Yeah.
I think look man, I forgot who said this, but deep down everybody knows what the fuck they got to do. Deep down you know what you got to do.
Yeah.
I don't know how many people here agree with Jordan Peterson, but I remember he made this analogy about nobody really wants to go fight the dragon, but motherfuckers are trying to get the treasure chest that lies behind them,
Yeah.
and for me, for the few people that are here, if you folks know me, for me, like 100%, it's writing. The physical task of sitting down and writing is my dragon, and
I
it's
know it.
crazy, bro. Yeah, bro. I'm being 100 with you guys. I'm being 100. That's my dragon, and here's the crazy thing, bro. The crazy shit, bro. And this is why I'm just fucking crazy. You don't even listen to nothing I'm saying, dog. I like writing, dog. I fuck that. I love writing. Like when I'm in the zone, when I'm writing, bro, I get fucking lost in it. But I don't do it. What the fuck's wrong with me, right? Like
Yeah.
I don't have no idea.
You
I
mean
don't
like
do it,
physically
but I love
writing
doing
with
it. Same
pen
with
and
reading books,
paper
bro.
or
Same
with
with reading
typing on
books.
computer?
I have all these fucking books. When I pick up a book and start reading, I can't stop until I finish it.
Mm.
But I don't do it. It's like it's weird as fuck, bro. And I think
Hmm.
maybe freestyling is just so like free, that I
Hmm.
don't need to pick up anything. I don't need to sit down. You know what I mean? It's like
And hence the name freestyle.
exactly,
But
and
go ahead.
but that's my dragon
You
right
can
there.
record on your phone and then have it transcribed, and that's
Yeah,
writing.
like, even like other shit. You're right. Thank you. You're right. There's many ways, and I appreciate appreciate that because you can make up 100 excuses, 1,000, a million. Like it's infinite number of excuses as why you don't do something.
Hmm.
As to why you don't do it, but you can also make the same amount as to why you do something. So
Yeah.
it's really all on you, and I think. But that's what I'm on right now. To keep it 100% of you guys, I know what my dragon is, but am I gonna go
Hmm.
fight this motherfucker, or am I gonna wait it out, wait it out? But you're gonna have to confront these things one
Yes.
day.
Hmm.
Yep. And it's
So,
important you be aware of that. But yes, brother, I mean, it comes to the point
bro,
of, yeah, I know you got to go.
It's the same
love,
message, and
appreciate you guys, man. You guys are cool as
peace and
fuck.
love.
I
Love
already know,
chopping over you
brother.
guys. Wish we had more time right here and shit. But
Do what you got to do, brother. Next time, man. I catch
peace.
you, man. Peace.
Let's talk soon. Kick it soon. Kick it soon in the studio.
I do what I can, bro. I'm lacking when it comes to funds right now, so gas is a problem. That's all I'm gonna
Love.
say. But
Oh yeah, you
we'll
live
get
far
something going.
away.
I know
Yeah,
you live a little far. So I'll probably come to
yeah,
you, bro. Figure it out. Figure it out.
yeah.
We'll do what we gotta do. Right, man.
Peace. Let it cool in.
Peace.
Peace. Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead, Kundin.
What he said at the last moment reminded me of also the same book I mentioned earlier, Deep Work by Cal Newport. And Cal Newport was also saying, like in his case, it's writing, right?
Mm-hmm.
That like whatever that the thing that you want to be great at, right?
Yeah.
Most people don't block out their time to
Yeah.
just do that deep work and be in that intense focus.
Yes.
Instead, they're scrolling on social media or Facebook or whatever and doing more of the shallow work. Or if you're a professional, you might be,
Shadow
answering
work. Yeah.
emails and doing the busy work, right?
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't produce as much what he would call deep value, you know.
Mm. Yeah.
And he talks about that there are many ways to schedule your time. Like there are four different ways that he talks about where you can do it. Like some people will carve out 3 days a week, to do it, but some people might do it more on a daily basis where you carve out 3 hours a day of your time to do it.
Yeah.
And so there is some flexibility in terms of the scheduling of how you want to at least start doing the deep work. Maybe in the beginning you might not be able to cover 3 whole days every week, so you might start with 3 hours a day
Yeah.
during the week and do it on a more daily basis rather than a weekly schedule. And
Yeah.
then people who are more on the advanced level, they might carve out 2 months a year. Like Yuval
Mm.
Noah Harari goes on these 2-month meditation retreats every year, 2 whole months just for himself,
Yeah.
just to know, because his whole thing is about, all of his books is about knowing reality exactly as it is. That's why he does this specific type of meditation, which is just observing your breath and knowing reality exactly as it is, to train
Mm.
himself to do that. So he carves out 2 months a year to do his deep work. So there is flexibility in terms of how you do it. And you gotta find that, take the time to find that.
Yes. And Kuna just gave y'all some keys to how to make things less complicated. Is you got to be structured about this stuff, and you got to have your
Yeah.
intention and awareness to want to do this. Now,
And find your structure, find the thing that works for you.
exactly. Now, and I'm gonna throw it back to Kunin after I make my point to make some final points so we can round up and finish up, wrap up with the show. I mean, to that same point there. Again, to go back to the question, why do we make things so complicated? Is because we also have choice. We decide to make those things complicated. Because again,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of us are not ready to do that again, that shadow work or to do that background work to help elevate. So it's easier to come up with,
Mm-hmm.
you want to, what we just said earlier, excuses. Those are what complicate things. You excuse yourself for every single thing. It's like, oh man, I could walk today, but I kind of just messed up my leg. Or even though
Mm-hmm.
you didn't really mess up your leg, you're just like, oh yeah, because it felt sleepy earlier. That's why you think your leg's messed up, but it's not actually. So you're starting to conjure up things of ways and to put barriers and to put boundaries up from you not being able to do whatever it is. I mean, the same thing with relationships. Why, you don't want to go
Mm-hmm.
super deep into a relationship with somebody is because, the past hurts that you've had with previous people. And you think that person is going to do the same thing because you're noticing certain things. And it may not necessarily
Mm-hmm.
be that. It's you bringing those things up, conjuring them. Again, fear, false evidence appearing real, because at times you don't really necessarily have that evidence. You're just trying to bring it up because you want to have a reason why you want to make things more that they are. And I mean, in relationships that people would consider toxic, just to liven things up and to make things seem like there's energy there's some type of love and affection, is they'll conjure up just random issues just to start. So you can end up calling home, or I saw a story. Somebody decided to call or use their phone and do like the star 96986, whatever it is, and they did that to their the person in relationship with, to call that phone and just doing
Mm-hmm.
that because they were bored. And then what they did is, after they have that happen, they go in and go get the phone from them and tell the person, wake them up and be like, yo, who the heck is this calling you at this hour at night? Why are they doing this? Who is this? Who are you saying? Is there something you're trying to, just to spark some type of, again, conflict, some type of energy and things and stuff again, and then a toxic
That's
relationship
crazy.
of,
Yeah.
why would you want to do that to yourself? Why would you want to complicate things more when you are building on something there? But again, it's
Mm-hmm.
because these not only excuses, but only our own projected and created fears that we want to just block from even trying to
Mm-hmm.
address or grow from something. Is why sometimes we complicate things so much, as well as miseducating ourselves on stuff. Is why we
Mm-hmm.
complicate things so much too. Is we think we know something when in actuality we don't know anything at all with what we're trying to talk about, and then we pass that on to somebody else, and they go do that, and what ends up happening is, instead of being like, oh, all you need is a ladder to help you go put in a light bulb, you done
Mm-hmm.
told somebody that you need to end up doing a backflip off of the table. Then you need to walk up the stairs. Then you need to come down and yell at the bulb, and then they'll go inside, and you'll have the bulb up and ready to go. No, we
Mm-hmm.
go through all these extra loops just to do all of that. And again, is dependent not only on your situations, your environment, but at the same time, what's been initially taught and given to you at a very young age. That's why people get through past traumas having to deal with the childhood, because there's stuff back there that they need to address and figure out. And that's why they're starting to bring that into the present and complicate things even more. So there's a lot of boundaries and stuff that we can create when it comes to why we make things so complicated. You know, and
Mm-hmm.
Avril Lavigne, her song, you could listen to her song, talk about why things are so complicated, but is it more in a relationship phase? There's so many songs
Mm-hmm.
around this, but
Yeah.
simple. If you can find things, you find your structure, like Kunde was given earlier, your structure, the things that work for you and stuff, you can make something that was so complicated so simple. As well as when you learn things, if you're able to simplify it and share it with people, that's when you know you've truly grasped something versus
Mm-hmm.
complicated it fully. But
Mm-hmm.
with that, Kunde, what was your last words and
Yeah.
last points on this topic or just an overall the show?
Well, to what you said earlier about that guy who did this totally crazy thing with the phone, it's like some people are so used to the drama that the lack of drama makes them uncomfortable, so they create drama because they
Mm,
want that feeling, almost like an addiction, right?
yes,
Some people are addicted to alcohol, and some people are addicted to scrolling on social media, and some people are addicted to drama in their relationships.
exactly.
But with drama to, but addiction like that, it can be in some ways, in some contexts, worse because they don't even know that they have this kind of addiction. Like they think it's just normal to do that
Yes,
because it's not taboo. There's really no real stigma around it. Unlike, alcohol and drugs, there's a whole stigma around it.
yes.
So with this, they can just, skate by and keep destroying their life over and over again and dragging other people down along with it.
Mm, exactly. Mm. But with that, y'all, we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna wrap up for tonight's show, as we usually do. Thank you again, Kunden. Thank you, Tanish, as well as Freddie, Fred Word, Fred Wizard, all of those together, and everybody who was here and they added their comments and their time. I'm thankful for every single one of y'all because the only way that we are able to continue to build as a community is to continue to communicate and come together. So thank y'all
Mm-hmm.
so much for your time and your support. Now,
Mm-hmm.
to wrap up, when it comes to current events, like I always say, make sure you take time to become aware of what's going on around you because it's imperative that you do so that you can have appropriate plans to not only protect yourself, protect your family, your loved ones, but all those also around you. So please take the time,
Mm-hmm.
figure out what's going on around you in the world, whether if it's here in the US for our US folks or out there for our national folks all over the place. Take time to figure out what's going on. Second, when it comes to adulting, the main thing you got to ask yourself when it comes to adulting really is, you know, when and why do you need to have or take responsibility? And once you're able to figure out that's whether you know whether you're in that role of being an adult or not. And again, that looks different for other people because there are people who are young. And what I mean by young, still within their childhood, and they had to already take on responsibility to be an adult. And those who are still right now, maybe in they late 20s and 30s, who think that they can still go around, do whatever they want, and haven't taken on that responsibility. So ultimately, when it comes down to adulting, yes, it can be a hard and arduous thing. It can be mundane. It can be bland. But depending on your intention, your purpose, and your why behind why you are an adult and why you take on the
Mm-hmm.
responsibilities and accountability is what makes it worthwhile. And lastly,
Yeah, and have that balance, right? Like
in the
take
balance.
responsibility, but don't be too hard on yourself or to put unrealistic standards like, oh, I have to be a big star by age 25, or ridiculous standards that you haven't even questioned where they really come from. Like take your time with, things like success or things like that. Just allow yourself to be stable at least as an adult. But as far as the other things, just, be take it easy, don't be so hard on yourself and just take your time to do that deep work because at the end of the day, deep work does take time too. So,
Yes.
well, yeah, that's true.
And lastly, when it comes to why do we make things so complicated, ultimately is we allow not only our emotions, but we allow our excuses, our experiences, past traumas, as well as our own motivation to create barriers and block us
Mm,
from our growth. And when we do
mm,
that, as well as we miseducate and misinform, we also complicate things even further
mm,
because everyone is not in unison or on one accord when it comes to a plan of action. So
mm,
ultimately, we make things complicated because we choose to make things complicated at the end of the
mm,
day.
mm.
But with that, y'all, this has been another episode of What's the Word Wednesday, Season 2, Episode 34. I've been your brother A.D.V.I.S.S. This has been Kundin, as well as everyone else that's been on here. Appreciate you so much for coming through. Shout outs to those who were here, as well as those who are going to watch this later, either on Instagram or YouTube. If you're on YouTube, subscribe to your boy at A.D.V.I.S.S Speaks. And don't forget to like, comment, share, subscribe, and also hit that notification bell because we got more videos coming as we usually do. And we're going to keep it as consistent as possible. So if you are there to give the attention, I'm going to continue to provide you with the content. But other than that, with the 1,000 on the subs and the way there too, we'll catch you next Wednesday for more content, more talks, more conversation. But other than that, y'all, peace and one love, and we are out.